ままうなずいたね悲しいハート命揺らめいていたシャララ Hello and welcome to the Nen Show Podcast, the only podcast that's in the threat of hiatus due to sickness. Okay, I tried to cough, but it didn't work, which is good, because I'm kind of sick. Anyway, I'm your host, Craftsdwarf, and this is MathWiz.
This is MathWiz, the guy who almost didn't read the whole section because things happened, but I did.
Yeah, we're a little late today. I wonder... Well, actually, if you're wondering why this episode didn't come out sooner, it's actually on time. The last episode was early. You see? Yeah, if I'm a little sniffly or coughy, I should be able to edit it out. I don't know how I sound. I don't know, do I sound normal to you?
I mean, I think you sound good enough. I mean, I don't notice a huge difference.
Okay. I mean, now that I mention it, I sound fine, but, I don't know. I haven't put out a video in almost a month, because I've been sick. So, moving right on to comments. Okay. This dumb-ass motherfucker Craftsdwarf last time, we were like, oh man, this Naruto versus Kakuzu fight, it's amazing, it's a 10 out of 10, it's the best moment in the manga, but he was like, herp de derp de derp, the Naruto, it didn't make sense, yeah, so, and technically not a comment, I did leave a comment on that, because I realized while editing that I was wrong to bitch about that fight for so long. Not that it's perfect, like there's one issue I might bring up later, because it's an interesting manga thing, but another aspect to the fight, or like, I mean, in the actual fight, you don't actually see Naruto, like, pretend to make a Rasen Shuriken with 4 clones. So, Kakuzu's, it's still a little that he did, but, you know, it's fine, I think, the way it actually, like, my fix was, it was how it actually turned out, so I was being dumb. That was technically, do you have any comments that you wanted to look at, or wanted to talk about?
Well, one thing that I've just been thinking about recently, it kind of ties into a comment by Romulus Numa. He says, "Thank you guys, you made me like this arc a lot less." But the funny thing with this podcast is that as I'm going through all these chapters, I'm actually, like, I know we've had a lot of negative things to say about it, but I'm actually, like, I'm developing a greater appreciation for the story as a whole. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I've mentioned multiple times that I like Naruto now more than ever. Like, even this arc, which, I'm not sure how to feel about this arc. Maybe after talking through it all, like, yeah, it's like, there's one moment in particular, this arc, that's really infamous, and I definitely have some bad things to say about it. But at the same time, I think I have more good to say about it than most, which is, it's interesting I see what you mean, basically.
I mean, I know this particular section of the story was, I don't know, like, especially as I was getting down to, like, this, I guess, because it's kind of broken up into 2 different halves.
This arc is weirdly structured. Well, see, actually, you say that. I'd say that this arc and the Sasuke Itachi fight should almost be, like, one really long arc. I'd almost call it the Hebi arc, because it's, sure, it cuts away to the Jiraiya stuff, but it cuts between 2 different groups, but I feel like everything that happens this arc is the result of Sasuke killing Orochimaru, so it feels like one really long arc almost. Like, and even with the Jiraiya stuff, it cuts away to Naruto and Sasuke every so often, so even then it's not like that part is dominating the stretch of chapters. I mean, it is, but it's not like 100%. So, it's definitely interesting how this arc is broken up. And strangely cohesive too, so.
Yeah, that's fair. Although I do really like how this, like, from, I guess, we have it broken up as, like, 4 different arcs or sub-arcs or whatever, but I do think it's interesting how they all kind of play off of one another. Like, you've got, when Sasuke is forming his team, you've got Naruto's group doing stuff. I was surprised. I thought it was just going to be, like, the Sasuke show, but then it kept cutting to Naruto, and I was like, oh, okay, I was misremembering, so. There was one other...
or were you done with that comment? Or, because we're getting into discussion a little early.
Well, yeah. There was one other comment that I wanted to touch on. Crap, now I've lost it.
Okay, you find it real quick, because Mitch wanted to know more about, this is more of a Nen Show comment than a Naruto comment, but he was asking if there was like a series we're looking forward to reading for the Nen Show, and a series if there's one we're dreading going forward to. And if you don't have any, do you have any like that? Like,
well, I know
once you're like...
In particular, I'm looking forward to reading Yu Yu Hakusho, just because that's the predecessor to Hunter x Hunter. And Hunter x Hunter, if you'll know from me, is the greatest thing ever. So that's exciting. Although, now apparently Kishimoto is, like, he's got another new manga in the works, and I'm actually kind of excited for that, because...
I mean, it'll be a while before we cover that on the Nen Show, because I'd like to have, like... This is kind of a currently unwritten rule, because we've literally only covered one show, but I'd like to... I feel like 10 volumes is kind of the minimum for that, like, because that's like 2 episodes of discussion, you know, and I feel like anything shorter than that, we're gonna be, like, it's just gonna be 1 episode, so...
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, we're coming in the series for the Nen Show. Okay, we're done. Like, what? That doesn't... No. What? So it'll be a little while before there's, like, 10 volumes of content, but...
Although, I would have to say, if there's a series that I'm dreading, beyond just going off of your videos, Fairy Tail doesn't sound too appealing, but Black Clover is another one that I'm sort of dreading, because, I mean, the anime wasn't great. People say that the manga is better, but... Like, I see potential flaws in the story, and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, see, anyway, for me, I think people might assume, like, oh, I'm looking forward to One Piece, and I'm dreading Fairy Tail, because I really, really fucking love One Piece, and I'm not a huge fan, not too big on Fairy Tail.
But actually, I'd say that Fairy Tail.
I mean, I am looking forward to One Piece, but I've also, there's not going to be a change in opinion. I'm already pretty set on my opinion of One Piece. Like, it's not like with Naruto where I'm, like, reevaluating the series. With One Piece, I'm pretty set. So, I am looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see what you think. But I'd say I'm looking even more forward to Kingdom, which is, like, I think on my anime list, it's, like, rated 10 for all manga. Like, it's so... And, like, the only shonen rated above it that are more highly rated are, like, One Piece, Full Metal Alchemist, and I think JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 7, which starts as shonen. Like, so it's more well regarded than, like, Yu Yu Hakusho, Hunter x Hunter, the manga of Hunter x Hunter is like top 20s, top 30s maybe. You know, so it's like, it's really highly regarded, so I'm interested in seeing how that is. As for dreading, I'm actually not really dreading Fairy Tail. I think that's going to be fun. Like, reading it is going to be hell, but talking about it is going to be great. I get to see you suffer through it. I get to share all the things I didn't get to say in my video series. So I'd say I'm actually more dreading Yu Yu Hakusho and Full Metal Alchemist, because I read them a few years ago and I wasn't super keen on them. Like, I do think I'm going to enjoy them way more. But since they're really popular, like, anything negative I'm gonna say, like, like, if I say something bad about Full Metal Alchemist, I will not be forgiven. So I'm just worried about more the fan response to what I Full Metal Alchemist in particular, I expect to enjoy more. But, yeah.
Yeah, and I would also say,
that's the one.
I kind of forgot, but I'm also excited to read Bleach, just because, like, with One Piece, I've already kind of started it, and it's already looking to be pretty good, so I'm looking forward to that as well. But, like, Bleach is the one that I know very little about, but it's one of the big 3, so I'm curious to see what all the hubbub's about. Yeah,
well, same here, really, because my exposure to Bleach is fairly limited. Like, I have seen a bunch of spoilers from later stuff, but, I don't know, we'll get to that when we get to it. So, not so much as a response to a single comment, more of a... Because a lot of the comments were on the discussion of the chakra system, kind of. Mostly people trying to explain stuff, rather than discuss... Like, my issue... Because, okay, I probably should have kept the bitching last episode down to a minimum, because the elemental system did get reused in this arc. Not perfectly, but better than it was in the last arc. But, like, my main complaint is that it just feels arbitrary. The whole chakra system, like, it doesn't feel like a cohesive system. Like, and the element system, like, even now, I don't think, like, you could pretty much cut out the element system and nothing really changes. And, like, the chakra system should be in service of better fights, but the fights in Naruto are kind of shit. So, it's just a bunch of, like, rules and exceptions, and it's just kind of a fucking mess. And, like, could it be worse? Yes, but it could be better. So, yeah, like, that's, I think, what my complaining last episode was getting at, basically, so.
Yeah, I know, they're, like, all the responses on this chakra system, like, there were some explanations, and other explanations seemed to kind of contradict others, and one guy left a comment and is like, no, all these explanations are only, like, half right. So I'm just like, well, what is it? And again, I'm not, like,
cool. If it does make sense, cool. But again, what is it in service to? And if the answer should be the fights, but the fights are still shit. The fights, like, I mean, like, honestly, I'm trying to think of my favorite fights, and I just go back to part 1. Like, all this added complexity, we'll talk about, there are some fights this arc, and I have mixed feelings on them, but, yeah, I didn't have a lot of specific comments, because most of them were on the chakra system, but, so I think I'm about done.
There was another comment from, Resonant Plot, yeah, it's okay to get revenge as long as you aren't Sasuke arc, which I thought was kind of interesting. Although I mean, there is a response to that from our biggest fan, only Sasuke. It's the Sasuke Shoto fan. Now he's only Sasuke beat Nakatsuki Nin without any intel.
We'll get to that.
The context of it is a bit different, I feel. I mean, I guess I didn't really have a big problem with it because, like he says in this comment, Sasuke's revenge quest is more obsessive, whereas with Shikamaru, I don't. At least to me, it didn't come off as that. Like, oh, I have to go out. Well,
Shikamaru's lasts all of like a day.
Well, yeah,
Ozma dies and Shikamaru gets revenge. That's it. With Sasuke, it's like this long affair of like that's more than 3 years even. So, and though another aspect to it, I think, is that with Sasuke, it's not as we will come to find out, it's not as justified. Like Hidan, he killed Ozma. He's irredeemably evil. Like, that's it. With Itachi, it turns out he was right. So there is a wrongness to Sasuke's vengeance, but I don't, so, like, honestly, at this point, I feel like Sasuke's actions are at least, definitely understandable. Cause, Itachi seems irredeemably evil, even though, and then, Sasuke's actions make sense for what he knows. So, I think that's fine. Like, but I do get the sentiment, the general sentiment, but, yeah.
And on the topic of this guy, he did leave another comment, which was more so directed at you, but in this comment, he talks about, like, inspiration for, Kurapika and
yes,
Sasuke.
I looked that up.
And, I don't know if I've ever claimed
because he was being all fucking coy about it, like, you guys are shonen experts. You should know this. And I look it up, and it's Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho. So his response to the idea of Kishimoto taking inspiration from Togashi is to point out that Kishimoto in fact took inspiration from Togashi. And I'm like, okay.
Well, I mean,
I don't fucking remember Hiei's character.
Well, in this comment, he, like, you did mention the well, now I can't see it in the comment, but he talks about, like, if you guys are shonen experts or whatever. I don't know if I've ever claimed to be one, but if I have, that's false. I'm a huge shonen fan.
I've read more stuff than
you've read way more than I have.
I've read more than you, but I wouldn't call myself an expert. Like, yeah, I read fucking Fist of the North Star. Don't fucking remember it. I'm not an expert. Like, there's so much shit. Like, how much Tezuka? I haven't read Astro Boy. Oh shit, Astro Boy. I should add that to the list.
But I just kind of wanted to address that if I have ever claimed to be a shonen expert, that's a lie. That's not what this show is about. It's just we're both really passionate about.
We're trying
shonen.
to be. See, that's the arc of the secret hidden narrative of the Nen shows. We're trying to become shonen experts by reading all of the shonen. See, there's there's another hidden arc to the Nen show there. Because after we read all this giant fucking list of series, maybe we can begin to consider ourselves experts on shonen.
Maybe, just maybe.
Maybe.
Although I do like the comments that this guy's been leaving. He's got some... Because again, like, when I first got into Naruto, I was not a big Sasuke fan, so kind of like going through these chapters and getting more of an appreciation for his character, and then this guy, he's right there to defend him with lots of, other evidence.
He feels kind of defensive about it, which I get. If you have an unpopular opinion, and you feel like you really... care about this unpopular opinion, then you're gonna get defensive about it. So, Sasuke gets unjustified hate. He's gotta defend Sasuke. But I also feel like he wants to be vindicated. Like, he wants us to like, me especially, like Sasuke. And so anything negative I'm gonna say about Sasuke is gonna fucking flip this shit. I don't know.
Well,
we're talking about a person now, so I'm a little like, I mean,
I do think that's understandable, though, because, like, whenever I want to get someone to, like, watch a show, like Hunter x Hunter, when people criticize Hunter x Hunter, I get this little part of me which is like, oh no, like I can, but like I can understand where they're coming from, but still, it's like, I want everybody to love Hunter x Hunter. It's my favorite show, and for
well,
him, Sasuke,
like, the biggest problem
is, like,
is when it's a criticism that isn't justified. Like, well, I for me, the defensiveness is One Piece, because One Piece has a lot of, like, memes. Like, not memes as in funny, just memes as in just these ideas that surround it, where, like, a lot of the criticisms of One Piece are they're just plain fucking wrong, and yet they've persisted, and I've been angry about them for years, even though it's stupid. Like, yeah, there are legitimate criticisms to aim at the series. Like, that's the other problem, is people are fucking complaining about the wrong shit. So, only I could complain about One Piece because only I know what's wrong with One Piece, so.
But in short, keep leaving those comments. Even if you disagree with us, I like the perspective, so just do it.
Yeah. I forget what we were talking about. I could go on tangents. Anyway, let's get into the actual discussion, shall we? Or are we done with comments?
Let's go.
So yeah, Sasuke's taking out literally fucking hundreds of guys. Who are these people? Like, wait, I didn't even actually think about it for a second. Like, who the fuck are these people supposed to be that Sasuke took out? Like, there's literally like a field of fucking guys. Like, and they don't have headbands. They all look identical. They're not clones because they would. I didn't think about it.
I mean, they could be real people that Orochimaru captured. They could be, I don't know,
That's
maybe
a lot
he
of fucking
experimented
people.
to just make.
That's a lot of fucking people. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, we find out in this arc that Orochimaru has all the. Well, maybe it had been hinted at before, but he has like a ton of different hideouts. So maybe these are people he captured, or maybe he just like created test dummies, and that's why they all look the same.
Maybe. I mean, he didn't kill them, so I don't know. Like, I guess. I mean, it's been mentioned that like Orochimaru is this super criminal, but it's like if these are all individuals, then holy fuck, Orochimaru's just like. He's Hitler. He is Ninja Hitler. He's kidnapping and experiment. Or Joseph Mengele would be a better Nazi example. But like, holy shit, this guy gets a lot of kidnapping done. God damn. But anyway, that's just a little thing I just noticed looking through, because we get after that we get a scene with Naruto, and we find out that his Rasen Shuriken damages himself, and I guess if he uses it enough, he will not be able to use chakra anymore, which is... How do I feel about that? Like, I mean, the technique is already hard enough to use. Does he really need more weaknesses? Like, I'm trying to say, like Naruto needs the power-up, so why make it worse, is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, it is a little interesting that we had sort of this arc where he trains up to develop this power, and then, okay, now he can't use it. Which, I mean, I'm not sure if I'd say that's a bad thing, because this, I guess, would kind of keep playing into the mindset of he can't catch up to Sasuke. Although, then again, that's not really, at least in this arc, I mean, the focus isn't on him, so maybe that's why, but that isn't exactly called into question. Like, that's not a focal point, like, oh, I spent all this time developing the technique that would be able to, like, compete with Sasuke, and now I can't even use it.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, right after this, he does get the Sage Mode training, which won't get into this time. But so it's not like he still doesn't have room to grow, like even within the next 100 chapters or so. But it's definitely, I mean, it's kind of the same issue with him mostly using the tailed beast form, and then now he can't, and not having much else to show for it from the time skip. It just, I feel like with Naruto, I kind of get what Kishimoto's trying to do with him, but he's fucking it up more, I guess is what I'm trying to say. He has an idea of what he wants to do with Naruto's character, but he keeps messing up, I guess, and not quite getting it across. So Naruto's kind of a fucking mess at this point of a character in some ways. It's just very much less clear. Like, I feel like all the planning's been on Sasuke, which really starts to show this arc when we get more Sasuke focused. Though there's, we'll get to Sasuke later, but I'm not sure if I'm quite set on that feeling. But
although when you think about it, like, this whole section of the story, Naruto he's really, like, in the post Shippuden section so far, he really has been just a mess. Like, he hasn't really accomplished a whole lot. Like, last arc, he got his big moment of redemption, but even then, it's kind of undercut with this, where he can't even like use his power properly. So maybe there's actually maybe there's like a I don't want to call it a theme, but it really does like continue, I guess, that build up to where he finally gets his big moment in the pain fight. But
yes, which I definitely want to talk about then, because that was a pretty big deal with the fan base. So, though one other weird thing about the scene is that like Naruto says that he likes being a useless fuck up that gets injured because Sakura can heal him, because he wants Sakura to be useful, like we do. But it's I don't know. I thought it was an interaction, but it's not quite like fixing any problems, I guess.
Well, one thing that I noticed that I didn't notice when I first was going through the series is like ever since there was like a moment in the Sasuke retrieval arc where like when Sakura was crying at like the exit or whatever, that Naruto kind of looked back at her and almost just seemed to process like, yeah, okay, things are never going to work out between me and her. And like ever since then, he still had these little moments where he's like, oh man, I thought this was going to be a date or whatever. But I don't know, ever since that point, it hasn't felt like before when Naruto was kind of obsessed with, I mean, maybe obsessed isn't the right word because it doesn't get a ton of focus, but yeah, before Naruto had this sort of, that was, I guess, how the romance in Naruto started out in the beginning, was that Sakura had this girlish crush on, Sakura on Sasuke, and Naruto
and Sakura, yeah.
Yeah, but since then, that has, I think, at least with, like, you don't see as much of it with the Sakura-Sasuke bit, because they haven't really had much time they haven't had much time to interact, but with Naruto and Sakura, like, Naruto's still kind of keeping up, like, yeah, I thought we were going to do this date or whatever, but I don't know, it just hasn't felt as, I guess, genuine as it was before, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, though there was a bit of a weird joke here, because, like, there's a bit where, like, yeah, the little moment you were thinking of, I'm sure, where Naruto's like, Sakura's gonna feed me? And then Sai is suddenly feeding him. But it's like, Sakura asks for Naruto's chopsticks, and then suddenly Sai figured what Sakura was gonna do and then did it for her? Or did she, I don't quite get what's happening here. It's a weird joke.
Yeah. I mean, it is a way to, I guess, let Sai keep being Sai and be somewhat relevant. But it was kind of odd.
He's being weird and asocial, but yeah, it didn't quite, like, it's another, Kishimoto loves his fake outs. Like, especially back in part 1 with the hospital scene with Gaara and Lee, and then later with the old men and the kid and Itachi. And so, and then there's actually another one later, in this arc. So I definitely noticed it where he's gonna like, oh, here's an expectation. And then he fakes you out. He seems to like doing that. So,
that's one thing that I've always noticed in the fights in particular, where there's always like a moment where, oh my god, he just defeated the guy, but oh wait, no, he's not dead. And then that seems to happen like, I'd say almost every fight, there seems to be a moment like that where there's this big fake out.
Yeah. Yeah, like even, getting to a fight where there's a big fake out, right after Kakashi comes in and they talk, he can't use the jutsu, and then we cut to Orochimaru is sick and dying, and Sasuke comes in and he's gonna fucking kill Orochimaru. So I guess we can talk about the fight. How did you feel about Sasuke versus Orochimaru?
Here's the thing, that, like, when I first went through this arc, I initially hated it, because this was around the time, well, maybe hate is a strong word, but this was around a time where I was a little uncertain on Sasuke's character, and meanwhile, I was a big fan of, like, Orochimaru and Deidara, and so in this one arc, Sasuke took out 2 of my favorite Naruto characters, and I was like, god damn it. But, like, from a practical standpoint, I do think it's a really cool idea that, well, first of all, Sasuke was like, he was gonna let Orochimaru use his body to, like, give him the power. Yeah. But at this point, then Sasuke realizes, well, I'm stronger than you, so there's no need to let you have my body. And it is interesting how up until this point, and even after this point, Sasuke is pretty dead set on not killing anyone. But with Orochimaru, like, there is a very clear, I think there's a shot of it where there's a parallel drawn
what I
to
like
him and Itachi.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to mention, because I like that because he dislikes how Orochimaru's kind of like, he sees Itachi's actions as being just kind of like, whatever. He killed the Uchiha clan because he could. You know, he's strong enough to do it, so he did. And so he sees that in Orochimaru. He's experimenting on people, and like hundreds of people apparently, because he can. So he sees that and he's like, well, you know what? Fuck you. Though, well, one interesting thing I've also thought, he mentions, he's like, as an Uchiha, I see you as a miserable lech. Like, he has a lot of pride in his clan, which is interesting because later we find out that the Uchiha clan is not all it's cracked up to be. So it's interesting to see the foundation of his beliefs be undercut later, but this is that build up towards that. You know, he's got a lot of pride in his clan, so Itachi killed the clan, so he's got to be killed. You know, as an Uchiha, you're a trash, Orochimaru. You know, it's an interesting little thing. But,
and at this point, I think Orochimaru getting killed off by Sasuke, it makes sense, because realistically, what other purpose does Orochimaru have to serve to the story? Like, really, his death is kind of the catalyst to what happens for the next...
Exactly. Like that's the thing. Sasuke killing Orochimaru and getting the word out about that is what causes all the characters to start moving in the next arcs. So, you know, it's definitely a pretty big moment. Although I will say, like, I do like that, like, you know, killing off this major character is kind of neat. But, okay, so we get this flashback, and where it's, you know, I guess kind of explaining why Orochimaru likes snakes, I guess, because he found some snake skin by his parents' graves. His parents are dead. Oh no, we should feel sad. Like, see, this is, I mean, it's not even really that tragic. Like, it's not really focused on the emotions. This is a better example of a backstory with tragedy in it, I think, because it's just sort of like trying to explain why Orochimaru why he is. Like, I get, or at least why I like snakes. Like, that's the thing. Okay, here's what I did, because, okay, like, the fight it was just a pretty quick exchange, honestly. Like, you know, Orochimaru goes into this big snake form, Sasuke fucks him up, and then Orochimaru goes into the ritual, and it fails completely because Orochimaru's making the exact same mistake he did against Itachi, and, like, there's the fake out moment where it's like, hey, Kabuto, which one do you think I am? Am I Sasuke or am I Orochimaru? And it's Sasuke, of course. So, and then it's just like, I guess it feels kind of like anticlimactic, because like Orochimaru loses because he's a fucking idiot, and he continued to take the Uchihas lightly. So what you kind of get is you get that, like, Orochimaru's character is kind of a mistake, like, I guess. Like, he had a lot of presence early on, but by this point it's just like why? Why did he want the leaf taken down? Like, why anything? You know, like, Kabuto, like, later on, we find out that he connected to Naruto a bit because he felt like, you know, he didn't know who he was because he was kidnapped and stuff. And he was like, oh, you, might also actually be a fox, so are you really Naruto? But then he's also kind of like Sasuke in that he wanted he wanted to surpass Orochimaru for some reason. Though with Kabuto, like, his character, like, Kabuto, what the fuck is Kabuto's character? And then, what is Orochimaru? Like, it just feels unsatisfying because it feels like we don't know anything. We don't really know anything. We don't learn anything about Orochimaru from his defeat here. Like, I know his character is not done yet because there's more of him to come in the war. I don't remember any of that, so, like, it just feels like Orochimaru is just kind of a fucking mess at this point. Like, how did you feel about that?
I mean, I thought it was interesting how Sasuke says that he absorbed Orochimaru rather than, like, killed him, which I guess was interesting. I mean, like, just this idea of, like, characters absorbing part of Orochimaru is... So it's a little weird, but...
It's his power, but...
Yeah, I don't really...
Yeah, I don't know, it's just kind of not, like... I mean, maybe it's not supposed to be satisfying, but it also just kind of, like, reveals the problems with Orochimaru's character. Like, he's just kind of getting overshadowed by the Akatsuki, and now he's just like, he's gone. That's it. That's the end. Like, and he's left his mark over the series, like, as, you know, Sasuke gets his band of friends, his merry band, and they're all connected to Orochimaru, but it's like, whatever. Like,
well, what I kind of like about Orochimaru's character is that when he first shows up to the series, he's this, like, ultra-powerful villain who is, like, the biggest threat our characters have ever faced before. And then, as the arcs go on, he progressively gets weaker and weaker and weaker, it seems, until here he's just kind of this pathetic mess that Sasuke just completely destroys. So in that sense, I do sort of like the what's the opposite of progression? The
regression?
Yeah. Maybe regression isn't the word, but like the slow breakdown of his character. Like he just sort of, because I mean, like he does get that big fight with Naruto in the Kazekage, or not, no, the one after that, the Tenchi Bridge. Yeah, that happens, but even then, it's, I don't know, that fight itself wasn't like the big drawing point of that arc. So, I don't know, it's like Orochimaru, there wasn't really much left for him to do at this point, and I think having Sasuke, having Sasuke get rid of him like this, it's a good way to keep giving Sasuke something to do, make him look super powerful, show off the fruits of his training.
Yeah, it's neat because it's also, like, I wouldn't say it's unexpected, but at the same time, like, having something like it just kind of reveals that the problems with Orochimaru's character, because he's just kind of nothing in the end. He's probably one of the most important characters in the setting, but it's just he's just a guy, like an evil guy who does evil things because he feels like it, and whether they make that sense or not, or don't. So it's
here too, you kind of get this. They touch on, like, Sasuke mentions, like, oh, you're so fixated on the Uchiha, but that wasn't like that's. I mean, you could, I guess, extrapolate that from his actions so far, but that wasn't really, like, a main focal point. Like, it was just he wanted to master all the jutsu, he wanted to destroy the leaf, but he was also, I don't know, Sasuke didn't seem like when Orochimaru was first targeting Sasuke, it didn't seem like he was just looking for him because he was an Uchiha. It almost seemed as though, I don't know.
I mean,
he did
was
target
kind of the
him
last
specifically.
one.
I think.
Yeah, he wanted the Sharingan, but it's not like he wanted it because he just wanted the ability to use those jutsu, because he wants to use all the jutsu and he needs an Uchiha at some point. So, and Sasuke's like the last one. If he doesn't, like, and especially with Sasuke trying to kill Itachi, they're the last Uchihas. If he doesn't get one of them, then he can't, like, he seems fixed. Yeah, it's not quite Uchiha specific, I guess, but yeah. I
mean, as far as what Kishimoto could have done with Orochimaru, I think this was definitely the best course of action. Like, when
that's the thing, it's like it's not satisfying, but I think it's just a lack of planning. Like, he didn't quite, and just also, like, he was kind of forced to include Orochimaru earlier than he intended to. And so he kind of, like, I imagine what do you do? And then he just did the best he could, and it was kind of clunky and not satisfying. So yeah, it's I guess, but
I mean, I didn't have a huge problem with it, but I could definitely see, like, with the issues you've had with his character up to this point, I can definitely see why it would come off as sort of underwhelming.
So anyway, I guess moving on to the rest of the arc. Suigetsu gets introduced, and okay, I don't know. See, it's like a lot of focus is like Sasuke's building his team, and like really, it's just a bunch of character introductions. So I don't feel like the discussion.
Yeah, this was easily the least, like, impressive part of the stretch of chapters we read. Like, I just like Suigetsu, I think is okay, but like
Sasuke has terrible taste in allies. Like, Suigetsu is, like, he's the only one, he's got, like, a motive, he's almost got a personality, like, he wants to kill people. That's, like, it. But it's still better than Jugo, who's, like, nothing. He's like, oh, split personality, I want to kill people, but I also don't want to kill people, but Sasuke can help me. And then, of course, Jugo's introduction also builds up, or references back to your favorite character, Kimimaro.
Not off to a good start with these characters. See, like,
and fucking Karin, like, her personality is that she, like, loves Sasuke, but she doesn't want to show that she loves Sasuke to anyone else, and everyone else could also fucking die. So she's basically, like, she makes Sakura look good. Which is, I mean, really Sakura's does.
Been, and like, I felt
holy fuck.
Like, when I was going through these chapters, I felt like I immediately could, like, the very first thing, like, where Karin is on screen, I mean, she's in shadow for a panel, and then the next shot is of her chest, the next shot is of her butt. And it's like, I mean, that's kind of a good representation of her character because she's just solely fixated on Sasuke. Well, so, yeah. Like, okay, like I said that I disliked Kimimaro, but maybe Karin will change my mind over the course of, the next couple of arcs, but like, her and Jugo, I just cannot stand them.
He's not a character. Like, at least Suigetsu you can say he's a character, like, he has got a weird relationship, like, he's, okay, they said he was the reincarnation of Zabuza, even though Zabuza's only been dead for, like, 3 years, so Suigetsu's, like, 3 years old, apparently, or they used reincarnation incorrectly. I don't know if that was a translation issue or Kishimoto fucked up. But then, like, he calls him Master Zabuza, but then it seems like, what Kisame says at, like, the very end of the stretch of chapters we read, is that Suigetsu just seems like a fanboy of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist, he wants to collect all the swords for some reason. Like, I guess. Like, I don't care about these guys.
I mean...
And, like, the other thing is, like, Sasuke, this arc, he's just in kind of, like, kill Itachi mode, and he's very, standoffish and just kind of emotionless. So, like, it's not bad, but he doesn't play off these characters well. Like, so what's the point of adding these new characters? Like, he treats them all the same. He's stronger than all of them, and he's serious, and he doesn't give a shit about their own thing. Like, so he's not, like, what's the... I don't like this. I don't like these guys.
I mean, I did think it was sort of interesting how when Suigetsu first appears and he, like, shows up behind Sasuke and he's like, I've got the advantage over you here, and Sasuke just, like, isn't even fazed.
He doesn't give a fuck. He's like, whatever. Like, it's just great. Yeah, that's pretty great, but it's also at the same time, he's like... Sasuke has the emotional range of a potato this arc.
Yeah, because what I...
For the most part, that's not true, but I just... He does. Sasuke is just not doing a lot emotionally this arc, which is fine because it's like it's building up to the Itachi stuff. So I feel like it's a bit unfair because I do feel like this is kind of one arc, and we are kind of cutting the arc short by stopping before the Itachi fight. But so yeah, it's mostly building up to a climax we haven't gotten yet. But
although I would say, like, with Sasuke being as emotionless as he is, I do feel as though that's sort of a natural step for his character.
It makes sense, but for a character, like, he's also the only shining light in this fucking, like, group, the shitty group, but he's Sasuke, so he can't exactly be a shining light by any stretch of the imagination, so it's like, so you just get these scenes that, like, we literally just cut through, like, 20 chapters of bullshit, honestly, like, just, because all it does is introduce these characters we don't give a fuck about, and, like, Suigetsu kills some people, and he tries to avoid, he's like, oh, Sasuke won't mind if I kill this guy, like, that's it. Like, Sasuke doesn't find out, so we don't get to see anything happen. He needs Suigetsu as an ally, so he's not gonna stop him. Like, it's so irrelevant, even though so much time is spent on it. Like, what do they do? Not even just in this arc. Like, what do they do? They help against Killer Bee, I guess. Like, and Karin's like a heel bitch for, like, the war and stuff, and the thing she gets impaled by Danzos.
Karin seemed like Sasuke seeks these three out for a very specific reason, apparently, but, like, Karin definitely, I guess, as far as her usefulness, is the pinnacle of the group, because she, detects everybody who's coming their way and is able to kind of warn them.
Yes,
because of her big sensory abilities.
She does do that, that's right.
So, at least with her, she does have, I struggle to understand why he goes after, like, Jugo in particular. Like...
Yeah, he just seems like a liability, really. Like...
I mean, I guess the whole idea... How did you feel about the way that they kind of, like, drew the source of the curse mark back to, like, this clan, this group of people?
Or I thought it was just Jugo specifically. Like, he was the origin of the curse mark. Like, through his, like, blood or whatever it was, or I forget exactly what they said. Well, see, I thought it was weird because Anko had the curse mark, I think? Or am I misremembering?
Yeah, she was the first character who really had it.
Yes. So, she was shown to have it at the same time Sasuke got his, but, around the same time. So, I thought it was weird because I'm not sure, like, how long she's had it.
Well, yeah, I meant, like, when I said she was the first to have it, I meant, like, she was the first character we saw who had it.
Yes, well, I also feel like, I don't know what exactly, we never get her backstory with Orochimaru, so I just wasn't sure, like, how old is Jugo? How long has he been in Orochimaru's captivity? And, like, he seems like, I feel like he should be a teenager like these other characters, but then, like, it's just a minor timeline thing that, had me, like, wondering, like, wait, how does this work? But it's not, like, too big a deal. Like, I guess it makes... I'd almost want to, like, it's fucking magic, it doesn't, Like, it's not a huge deal, but it doesn't, like, add to Jugo's character majorly. Like, they're just plot, they're almost, he and Karin in particular, their abilities are just plot things. So, whatever. Like, it doesn't, they don't reflect on Orochimaru's personality or lack thereof. Or maybe they do. That's the thing. They don't have personality, just like Orochimaru. No, that's not even fair. Orochimaru's at least kind of like a dick sometimes, I guess. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean,
really.
At least Orochimaru has, like, presence about him. Like, he's a pretty charismatic...
That's a better way to put it, yes.
I mean, he's a pretty charismatic figure, but, I mean, Jugo is nothing.
Oh, God. Yeah, sorry, Sasuke. You have, like I said, you have bad taste in allies. It's just, Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm not sure what could have been done because, Sasuke is being very emotionless at this point in the story, which doesn't make for good character interactions, even though it does make perfect sense. So,
but I guess at least with Karin and Suigetsu, whether it's them interacting with each other or them interacting with Sasuke, like there are moments of levity there, which I guess is good tonal balance. But like with Jugo, even with Jugo, there aren't really any like Sasuke's sort of like just non-committal reactions don't really. There's no real payoff there. Like, at least with Karin, like, the part where she tries to, like, seduce him and fails utterly, that's kind of funny.
Right.
And then
because it's at her expense. That's why it's funny.
Yes. And then, although, like, the dynamic between Suigetsu and Karin also I don't particularly care for, but I guess...
I mean, it's something. He's trying, at least.
Yeah, at least there is a dynamic there. Whereas with
like, I think my issue is that Sasuke is the only character in the group I care about, and not for lack of trying on Kishimoto's part for the others. So it's like, yeah, there's moments of levity and interaction between, like you said, Karin and Suigetsu, but I don't care about them. And it's not, like, great, like, she hits Suigetsu and he explodes because he's water. And, okay, that happened.
Yeah, Karin she's like that one part of Sakura, which is, like, obsessed with Sasuke, and that's her entire personality. Like, at least Sakura, there's more going on with her there.
Right, she has relationships with other characters. And
like, you could say that Karin has a goal, and that's to be with Sasuke, but when Sasuke just flat out rejects her, it's like, okay, now this is just a gag. Like, people joked about, what is it, the joke in Black Clover where Asta wants to marry the nun, and it's like, okay, it wasn't funny the first time, stop, you don't need to drive it any further home. And yes, that's like Karin and Sasuke. She's like, I wanna do the sex things with this guy, but he's not having it, and it's just that over and over and over.
But she also, if she's in front of other people, she suddenly doesn't want Sasuke, but she's being like is it like a bad tsundere thing? Is that what Kishimoto was going for? And it's funny, like, because we skipped over this moment before because there's like a little gag scene with Konohamaru. I forgot his name.
Oh boy.
Where it's like they do the transformation. Except, I was pissed because in the official release they censored it. They silhouette the characters he transforms into. So, and I know for a fact that wasn't like that in the original release because I read it when these chapters were new. I like the scene. I was just slightly offended that they censored it.
Yeah, I thought because when I saw that panel, I was like, wait, was that supposed to be the one with? And like then the not Sasuke, he's not there, but Sai comments on it. It's like, oh, that's me and Sasuke, and it's like, oh, okay, that was the panel, but it was censored, which was odd, right. Which I guess makes sense given, I guess, the demographic.
Well, that's the thing. It's so. I don't know. It's like, I like the joke of Sakura being into boys' love. It's fine, it's not amazing, but it's just like her reaction is like exactly Naruto's. Like, she's like chiding Naruto for being a kid, but then she's not much better. That's the joke. But then they kind of weaken the joke by censoring all of the fucking fan service, and I'm like, give me my fucking fan service and my man service. I'm an equal opportunity. No, it's just, I guess the girls were, because they had fan service earlier with this, like, the hot spring scene. Like, I don't think any of that was censored. Like, they were obviously covering their bodies with, like, towels and stuff. That was, like, back in part 1 with Jiraiya, or maybe there was one in part 2 that I don't remember.
Yeah, there was the hot spring scene with, what was it, Sai and Yamato.
Oh, that's right. That was the other one I was thinking of. You're right. And like, so yeah, like a girl standing there in a hot spring with a towel is fine, but two girls pressing their breasts against each other, too much, I guess. Or two guys, like, not even, just sort of like, looking at each other, with their upper halves being naked. Like, that's too much, apparently. Like, even though Naruto and Sasuke kiss in chapter, like, 3, I mean, it wasn't a sensual kiss, I wouldn't say. Like, this moment is definitely more, like, sensual, so, but, it's so, I don't know, I'm not a fan of the censorship. I don't like censorship in general, so this is just a little annoying. Cause this is the official release. This is what you would expect an English viewer to see, and, it's censored, so fuck that. Like, I wonder if it would be censored today, because again, the manga scene in this time period was a bit different. Like, I think you could get away with more nowadays, and it's, I would think, but I don't read a lot of official releases, so I'm not sure about that. But I do know that there's a much wider variety of manga being released today and getting translated, and so that's nice. But
I did think it was just a small little detail, but I did think it was I don't know if it would be necessarily interesting, but like when Konohamaru first does the transformation, Sakura runs up to him and punches him. I thought it was cool how she doesn't punch the clone, but because way back when it was established that she could see through that stuff, so she just goes straight after Konohamaru. She doesn't even bother with the clone.
I didn't notice that.
She just punches him.
Well, the clone vanishes.
Yeah, the clone vanishes.
Like, she hits Konohamaru so hard. She hits Konohamaru so hard his clone explodes.
Yes.
That's funny. I didn't notice that. That's good. Yeah, that's a nice little detail.
There we go. A positive nitpick for a change.
The opposite of a nitpick. So yeah, then we get all the shit we already bitched about with Sasuke's friends, and like, there's other stuff that happens.
They're not
like,
his
they fight
friends.
yeah, they're like, there's other stuff that happens, but like with all the other Curse Seal guys, like, but it's like whatever, you know. Sasuke doesn't kill them, and then Suigetsu kills one or two because he can get away with it.
Yeah, it's those little conflicts like that, like, oh, Jugo is gonna kill people, but it's Sasuke.
Oh, yeah.
Like, is he gonna kill Sasuke? Like, we know it's not gonna happen. It's just, I mean,
right.
I'm not a type of person who is like a detractor of predictability, but like in that particular scenario, like that's a conflict I just can't get invested in, because like he's a new character, I don't know him, and what do you expect him to do?
Like, the best part about this whole thing is like when Jugo and Suigetsu are about to fight, and then Sasuke stops him with snakes, and he's like, "Do you both want me to kill you?" And he's so done. Like, just his face, he's just like, he doesn't give a fuck. He is done with this bullshit. Calm the fuck down, guys. Like, and then they're like, "Oh shit, this guy will kill us," and they calm the fuck down, and yeah, that was like the best part. Like, because I've already bitched about these characters enough. But anyway, so. Like, yeah, he names their group as Hebi, which just means, like, he calls them Snake. We are Snake.
I'm surprised that the official release didn't translate that. Like,
exactly.
You know, sometimes they'll have like Jutsu and then the English translation, but that one they didn't even show like we are Hebi and then with like a mark Snake. It's just we are Hebi. So I was like, what does that mean? See,
what I'm wondering is like, because like, what is is this group Hebi in the original Japanese? Like, is there different kanji? Like, is it supposed to be, like, is there a double meaning to it? Like, the kanji can be read as snake, but it also means something else? Like, what is that other meaning?
I mean, I don't have a problem with them keeping Hebi, but I just thought it was a little odd that they didn't also, like, translate it. Because usually the first time they'll, like, show it, and then they'll stick with the official after the fact, but I don't know, they didn't even, like, explain it. Yeah, see, well, I'm fine with the name, I'm just wondering what's being lost in translation here. Because sometimes I can tell, like, or at least with like, in anime, like, a character will say something, and the subtitles will be different, and I'll, like, catch that. And it's much less, but in manga, you don't always, it's harder. So, you know, I'm fine, like I said, I'm fine with the name, yeah. I'm wondering what's being lost here. Like, what's the intended meaning behind his team's name? Is it just Snake? Is that it? If so, it's fine. It's just, I feel like there's probably more here that I couldn't possibly guess at. But anyway, I do like how, like, you know, he killed Orochimaru, he gathered his team, he's told people to spread the word that Sasuke Uchiha killed Orochimaru, and then, you know, the Konohamaru group, or the Konoha group realizes that,
Sasuke's probably looking for Itachi. So if we hunt down Akatsuki, we will, maybe we'll find Itachi or they'll find Sasuke, something will happen. So, and then of course we get a scene with the Akatsuki and they got the four-tailed guy, I think. And then, we see Itachi and Kasame, they seal him away. And, I don't know, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say. Because you get the bit with, like, Deidara, he decides to, go out and... Oh, yeah, there was this one little weird tidbit that bothered me a bit. Because they say that they can't get the Nine Tails until they have all the other 8 beasts. Because it will fuck up the balances and the statue will blow up.
But they had already done things out of order. Because, like, when they got Gaara, they already had 2 beasts. So did they just not seal them? But... I thought the statue already had eyes.
Well, I don't see. That's the thing. I don't think it's like supposed to be in like the Nine Tails is special, I guess is what they're trying to say.
They don't necessarily have to get the other 8 in order just so long as the Nine Tails is last.
Which I still thought was weird because 3 years ago Itachi tried to capture Naruto. Like, what were they going to do? They had Naruto. If Naruto was the third or fourth guy they captured, were they just going to keep him in a cage for like 5 years until they got the rest of the tailed beasts? Like.
I mean, that's...
I get, maybe.
Kisame does like bring that up. Like, he says, well, would you want to just go capture him now and just, imprison him? But Itachi just kind of shrugs it off.
Yeah, because it just seems like kind of weird to mention this now. When, especially that... Like, and the other thing is I don't really see the purpose in doing it because, like, it's not like they're going to capture Naruto anytime soon anyway. They know where he is. Like, do they not know where Killer Bee is? There's only 2 guys left, so it's not a huge difference as to which, like, I don't see why Kishimoto felt the need to say that they absolutely need to get the 8-tailed beast next, when, like, they've already tried to get Naruto, and he's protected, he's strong, he's got the 9-tailed beast, so he's got the most dangerous tailed beast in him, so it makes sense why they don't just capture him immediately, like, it's not an easy task, So I just don't see why he felt the need to go out of his way to say that they can't get Naruto right away when it contradicts previous information.
That's a little odd.
But and we do get this little bit here where like Deidara suddenly has like, oh, he wanted to kill Orochimaru, but Sasuke did it, so he can't. And then you have later we get a flashback with Deidara and Itachi. So this rivalry kind of just crops up all of a sudden, which makes sense because Sasuke hasn't been around and Deidara wouldn't have interacted with him anyway. I'm not sure, like, it's not amazing, but I'm not sure, I don't think it's bad.
I guess it is sort of weird that Deidara, it seems like he all of a sudden has all these ambitions, like, oh, I wanted to take out Orochimaru, and I wanted to take out Itachi, and now I want to take out Sasuke. Although, like, I mean... I don't know. It was such a small thing that I didn't really have a huge problem with it. Like, the stuff with Itachi and Sasuke I can buy into, and, like, the Orochimaru thing, it was just sort of a throwaway line that... I mean, I think it crops up again during their fight, but it was such a small thing that didn't really bother me. So anyway,
everyone's kind of preparing for the next arc. Heavy's gonna go out, find Itachi, the Leaf Ninjas. They grab, Hinata, Kiba, and Shino, who barely do anything this arc.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that we form this big group, and then they just don't really have a chance to do anything.
Sai doesn't do anything, Sakura doesn't do anything, Yamato doesn't do anything, like, Kakashi has his dogs, Kiba has his nose, like, literally all you need is Naruto, Kiba, and Kakashi, like, no one else matters. So,
well, I mean, like, I guess the reason why the group was together makes sense, but it's just, like, story significance. Yeah, they explain it,
but... Well, it also reminds me a bit of the, back in the Kazekage Rescue arc when they include Team Guy, and they barely had a reason to be there, and, so it's just... Like, I get what he's trying... Like, that's the thing, Kishimoto is trying to, justify having such a large cast of characters by using those characters, but he's not really using them in a meaningful way. Like, it could have just as easily been, like Kiba's the only one who needed to be here. And, Hinata and Shino are just more or less baggage that came along with Kiba.
Although, at least in this instance, their inclusion wasn't quite as intrusive as Guy's group, where, like...
Yes, like, they don't get a bunch of boring fights, they don't get any... Yeah, that's a good point.
So, I mean, in that sense, it was it was more effective than that, where it doesn't kill the pacing with their inclusion. Like, they're just kind of there. They move along like the group is all moving at the same time, so it doesn't do too much to damage anything.
Yeah.
I guess it is a little underwhelming that they don't really do anything. But hey, I guess I'd rather that than Kishimoto, because that was one of the big issues with the Sasuke retrieval arc as well, is that when it came down to the one-on-one fights, they just killed the pacing, and like they was trying to put focus on these characters, but it just couldn't be done.
Right, and then nothing really came out of it anyway. They're just there they're there to help, but they also need to not be involved in any of the actual important things, so they gotta get written out with their duplicate, like they're born, and it's just a lot of time is spent on them when they didn't need to be there, and yeah, it's not satisfying. But anyway, moving on. We get another fake out moment, kind of, where it's like, oh, is Sasuke going to run into Naruto's gang or something like that? But then it turns out Kabuto meets Naruto, and Sasuke meets Tobi, and we get some scenes with that. Like, again, it's more of Kabuto's character. Kind of mentioned it earlier. You know, he wants to surpass Orochimaru. And, I mean, I kind of like that he talks about how he doesn't know what his character is, because I also feel like Kishimoto didn't know what Kabuto's character was.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know, maybe that's just me.
No, I definitely do kind of understand that, because, like, with what Kabuto is now, it does, like, when you got that scene back in the Chunin exams, where he's like, oh, are you going to betray me? And it does make it seem kind of weird, so if this is Kishimoto calling attention to that, I do think that's, I mean, at least he's self-aware of it, and from this point forward, like, he could do more with Kabuto's character, which, I mean, obviously this arc, Kabuto doesn't really do anything, but it's clearly setting something up.
He doesn't do anything until the war, right? I think that's when Kabuto starts becoming
as far as I'm
again.
aware.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the panel with his, like, crazy face where he reveals that he purposely put Orochimaru into his body, which is kind of fucked up.
I do think that's a really interesting concept. Like, I need to validate my existence, so now I have to fight this inner battle with Orochimaru trying to overtake me.
An interesting method of doing it, too. Yeah, because, I like the way he puts it where it's like, if he's fighting the battle against surpassing Orochimaru every day. If he loses, he gets overtaken by Orochimaru, and but he has to, as he wins, he's himself. So it's that's kind of interesting. But again, we'll talk about Kabuto later when he comes back, because it's like, this kind of introduces that idea, and then he goes away for like 500 chapters. So I can't really speak much about it now. So maybe some of my complaints about the Orochimaru Kabuto stuff being just kind of like meh, I'll get some more closure later, though I'm not quite anticipating that, just because I don't think I've heard a lot of good things about the war in general, so.
Yeah, the more we've been going through this stuff, the more I've realized, like, man, my opinions of Naruto really have been heavily shaped by that war arc, and I think that might be the case with a lot of people who kind of look back on the series that way, because before I was always like, oh, part 1 of Naruto was great, but then part 2, not so much. But, I mean, so far, things have been pretty solid.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is that when it comes to, like, long-running things, it always goes to shit the moment you catch up. So, like, no matter what, everyone hates it when you're like, go look at a recent discussion of One Piece, or Hajime no Ippo, or what other big things are Seven Deadly Sins. And if you ask what the worst arc is going to be, it's always the current one, because My Hero Academia. Like, that's because weekly viewing is generally shit, especially, like, it's harder to see the whole picture when you're just seeing, like, a small snippet every week, and that's the only time you even think about the series, So, not that there aren't problems with part 2, but, and again, I don't know, the war I don't know about, but, in your case, you watched it all at once, give or take. I don't know how long.
Well, the anime wasn't complete yet, so it's not like I could have finished the Great Ninja War. But yeah, I definitely, that could be a big.
Yeah. So wait, was it still airing when you watched it?
Yeah, it was still airing. Like, I mean, it was pretty close to the end. Like, it had gotten through a lot of stuff, but there was still, I think, a good 30, 40 episodes until. Well, actually, it was probably even more than that. I think I was up to around.
So you watched the last of Naruto over across a year, basically. It sounds like. If you're talking 30, 40 episodes that you had to watch weekly, then that's like a year of watching.
Well, no, what happened was I was catching up to the current stuff. Like, I had made it about 400 episodes into Shippuden, and then I just stopped, because by that point I was done.
Oh, okay. And then you came back to it later. Okay. Or, right? Or,
I just skipped to the final fight. I didn't even watch the latter half, so... Well, maybe not the latter half, that's over-exaggerating, but, the tail end, the climax of the war.
Okay. Anyway, let's just move on, I'd say. But, because we get... Okay. Now we get one of the most controversial fights in the series. It was probably my favorite this arc. Deidara and Tobi versus Sasuke.
See, yeah, I love this fight up until the ending, which I think is how most people think of it. Exactly.
Well, yeah, the ending is a little much. But, yeah, because this fight has a lot of stuff going for it. Like, I will say, like, the electricity beating earth stuff, this is the best uses of elemental weaknesses it's thus far, though it only has one of the arc to conflict. But at the same time, like...
I didn't really feel like the elemental aspect of that needed to be necessary, because I thought back to, like, when Killua uses his, like, electric ability to, like... that one moment in the Chimera Ant arc where the guy has the power where he can throw the darts at you. And Killua was able to, like, sense it with his ability. But, like, with Sasuke, like, I could understand the electricity, like, shorting out the bombs.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be because lightning beats earth. Well, because it goes back to why it feels arbitrary. Because, when Kakashi pierces Kakuzu's armor, lightning, it just works. It's just better. Lightning is just better than earth. Consider how Pokemon has the complete reverse relationship between lightning and earth, where lightning doesn't work against earth because earth dissipates it into the ground, so it doesn't do shit. Which, I mean, it's a video game, so it's a bit more abstract. Like, why, if you get a ground Pokemon in the air, wouldn't lightning work against it then? Maybe it doesn't, it's a video game, so it's a little bit more forgivable, I'd say. But in this case, it's like, you could just as easily imagine Sasuke's lightning triggering the bombs, because I think C4 detonates through electrical charges. Like, it's a stable explosive. And, I mean, obviously he calls it C4 and C1 and C2, but it's chakra bombs. So my point is that you could sort of take it, if you're trying to come up with the interaction between lightning and chakra bombs, you could sort of imagine it doing, I could buy it shorting it out, and I could also buy it, exploding them prematurely, which would go against what Deidara wants. So, it could work either way. But, and he doesn't do it both ways, which is good. He chooses one and sticks with that, with the shorting out the bombs. So, and I like that. But again, like you said, it doesn't need to be an elemental thing.
Because honestly, other than that detail, nothing about this fight really played into the elemental stuff. And I guess you could kind of argue that the whole... Because at the very end, when he kind of flashes back to, oh, this is what I did, that's why the bombs didn't go off. Then, in that sense, it is a key part of the fight, but, it didn't really feel like an Earth versus lightning thing. It was just sort of here's the series of events that's happening, and then, oh, by the way, this is also because I'm lightning nature.
Yeah. Well, I feel like if he was going to take out the elemental thing, he might have wanted to make it a bit maybe add another one very clear instance of the lightning disarming the bombs, just because then you could buy into Sasuke's logic more. The reason he has this logic is because he knows about the elemental weaknesses, so he suspects that lightning beats earth, so that's why it works. So if you take away the lightning beats earth, but want to keep the lightning beating Deidara's bombs, then you just need a little bit more evidence for Sasuke to come to that conclusion. So it's doable. It would need some changes, but it's doable to just remove the elemental thing and have it still work, which is fine. You mentioned the flashback, and yeah, that was when I started to lose interest in the fight, was because they just sit down and just sort of explain their abilities to each other, which I'm never a fan of. They have a fucking post-mortem, they just had a shogi match or something, and they're talking about what went wrong. It's just fucking, that's what it felt like. They're just standing there talking about their abilities for, pages, and I'm just okay. Sasuke is basically won, but at the same time, Deidara is not actually done, so, literally, I'm just looking at it, and there's, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 straight pages of just basically pure dialogue of them explaining what happened. Because like, again, this is another issue with the chakra system where it's just not readable. Like, you can't tell what's happening through the art alone. It needs to be explained. Because it is overly complex. There's too much going on that make it, which is one of the reasons the fights in Naruto are generally not good. Like, there's a lot of this I like, but it needs to be explained, and that's also kind of the problem, you know? So.
Well, I mean, the whole mechanic of, like, because you had talked about how, like, Sasuke would need a little more evidence to go on because, like, my main issue isn't that the elemental stuff is included, because obviously if this is the power system he's going with, you'd want to include that. But in this particular fight, like, throughout the majority of it, it plays out without that seeming to be in effect. Like, the characters are just having exchanges, and it's just a power, like, their powers are playing off of each other, but it's not exclusively like, oh, this is working because I'm lightning nature and he's earth nature. It's just kind of like a big reveal at the end, which,
yeah,
I mean, it does, I guess, like, retroactively affect things because, like, oh, this is why this happened. But even then, like, you mentioned how Sasuke would need a little more evidence to go off of, but like, if the power mechanic, like, wasn't there, like, if...
Well, I'm saying that, like you said, it doesn't necessarily seem like it's there until the end, but at the same time, if I'm just basically I'm arguing against the inclusion of the elemental system at all. Like, I like that because it's there, they're including it in this fight, but retroactively, like, you could, if you just remove the elemental system from Naruto, like, nothing changes.
Well, because even then, like, in this particular fight, like, if they didn't like, because they do add it in sort of retroactively at the end, so if you just had said that, because, like, Sasuke has multiple instances in this fight where he uses that power. So you had initially said that, like, if there had been a bit more evidence for Sasuke to go off of, you could buy into it, which would require the fight to be restructured a bit. But even with the way things play out now, I felt as though it was okay because, like, the first exchange, Sasuke throws his senbon with the Chidori lace through him.
Yes.
And the bombs don't go off. And then he's like, okay, well, I want to test this. So then he uses his sword with Chidori, and that proves it. So then it's, like, I think that would be enough to just buy into it. Like, okay, his nature, or not nature, but, like, his Chidori cancels out these bombs.
My argument was just an extra instance because the reason he thinks that is because he knows that lightning beats earth. And my argument was that if you take away the elemental aspect from the series, then he would need maybe, I don't know, I guess, yeah, it's not necessary. Like, it works, but...
Yeah, because you could just have him say, oh, I noticed those bombs didn't go off. But he's like, is it because my ability? So yeah, I guess you could say that maybe there needs to be another exchange there, but I mean, I could buy into it either way.
That's fair.
But like, I know we've already done a lot of... We've
yes.
had a lot of negative things to say about this fight, but honestly, I really do like this fight. It's one of my favorite in the series so far, I'd say. Maybe not the top. I'd have to get back to you on that. But, like, this one, when it comes to, like the technical aspects of a fight...
Real quick, what do you think... Or go on. Okay.
Well, like, when it comes to the technical aspects of a fight, Naruto doesn't always have very technical fights. Like, I'd kind of praised...
They try, but that doesn't usually work out,
yeah,
I'd say.
Because I had praised the Deidara fight as a fairly technical one, and then the Neji versus Kidomaru fight back in the Sasuke
Neji versus Kidomaru, that's probably my favorite technical fight thus far,
yeah,
I'd say.
But then here, I felt as though this was sort of on par with those other two. Like, it had that technical aspect to it, and also kind of had the typical Naruto scale. The only problem with it is that, like, it's Deidara, so, like, there isn't going to be the emotional impact there as there would be with, like, Naruto Sasuke. So, it's not going to go down as, like, one of the best fights in Naruto from an emotional standpoint, but, I mean, I do really like this fight for what it is. Yeah,
though, the one other thing I realized is that, Deidara's abilities are cool, because I was thinking about how, with Hidan last time, like, I was pretty dissatisfied with the final encounter with Shikamaru, where he just, like, he does the blood thing, but that's more on Kakuzu than Hidan. Like, with Hidan, he just sort of, like, makes him think Shikamaru's dead, and then he, like, runs away and puts him in a hole. Like, because with Hidan's abilities, you kind of get the Hidan fight before with Asuma and everyone, and that's like it. That's the Hidan fight where you see his abilities. But Deidara, we've already seen him before, and yet he's still able to pull off this fight against Sasuke. Like, he only pulls out one new trick with the C4, the bombs that, like, eat matter. Like, they're completely
That's such a fucking cool ability, though.
Yeah. Well, there's the Genjutsu bit where Sasuke's getting like destroyed, and it's a cool visual. That's because that's not really the only like new thing that gets pulled out, and even then it's not really the way it's the pain fight later with Jiraiya. I was kind of not satisfied with it because the characters just kind of kept pulling out new stuff. And so I was just like, well, okay, like, whatever. Like, in this case, Deidara only pulls out that thing, so it's fine, you know?
I just thought it was kind of interesting cool. How, like, his powers are explosive, and that one is, like, it's still an explosion, like, from, like, a cellular level, but the way it's more of, like, erosion, it's kind of the opposite of an explosion when you think about it.
Yeah, it feels very muted. Like, normally his explosions are big, but that one's just almost like a silent explosion. Like, you could just imagine it just clearing a building of people in, like, a moment. Like, everyone just vanishes, and it's fucking horrifying. Like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, like, I do think it's interesting. It might just be the nature of his abilities that, like, because I liked his fight with Gaara for similar reasons, in that I thought it had sort of a technical interplay of powers with it. And then he comes up again here and has this fight, which is also really cool from a technical level. So yeah, I might go so far as to say that Deidara is, like, top 3 Naruto characters for me. Like, at this point, because, like, I mean, his personality, I just think is sort of cool. He's got that, like, arrogant thing. But just, like, the nature of his powers, I think, are, like, maybe the powers themselves as a concept, not the most interesting in all of Naruto, but, like, the way they're implemented is consistently, it's consistently an appealing and interesting aspect of his fights, whereas...
Like, well, honestly, if it weren't explosive, like, as a power set, like, I could almost see it like a main character, like, not quite a major side character having them in that, like, because they're reusable, like, that's, like, Hidan, his powers only last a fight. Like, that's how interesting his powers are. Yeah, one fight worth of power. Like, so he doesn't need to, but Deidara, I feel, you could do, they're they're versatile. You could do, I feel like you could do more things with them, like, with the, it's like the only thing, like, bombs are kind of like villainous, I guess is what I'm trying to say, so, but
like, I could see him lasting like a major villain.
Yes, I could see him being recurring, kind of, like, yeah, like he would like a rival almost. So yeah, it works.
Yeah, because
cool.
with a character like Hidan, his powers are not flexible at all because he has a very strict thing that he has to go by, which I think could very well be like a big part of why Kishimoto made sure that, like, this character is not coming back, and then later when the big war arc happens, he doesn't come back because, like, how else could you make his powers
He's
work?
got this, like, like, his fight would just be someone figuring out that he has to get out of it, that they have to knock him out of his, circle, and they knock him out of his circle. That's it. That's the fight.
Yeah.
That's the fight. I mean, technically he could get brought back from the dead because he didn't die. Speaking of that, though, just a kind of aside that I noticed, there was, I forget if it's before this or after this, but they were talking about, questioning, like, if they could capture a Akatsuki member alive, they could question them and get information, which was hard to do because Akatsuki members are pretty tenacious. And then I remembered that they have an Akatsuki member alive, buried in a hole somewhere.
Oh. Why?
Yeah, I mean... Did Shikamaru not, like, mention, like, maybe he just said, oh yeah, I killed Hidan, I killed an immortal guy, and everyone's just like, okay, I get it, I buy it, like, and then like, he wasn't there when they were talking about how they were needing an Akatsuki member to get information from, because he could have been like, okay, fine, I'll dig him up, and then, I mean, he's just a head, how dangerous can he be? Like, if they're talking about capturing, like, a fully fledged, like, Akatsuki member, and... Like, is Hidan really going to give him that much trouble? So...
Yeah, that... that would have been...
Just a little...
Huh.
Yeah, would have been nice to see them at least bring it up and dismiss it, because obviously the story couldn't, like, or at least, like... Or even just do it. Just fucking do it. What information does he know?
Well, because, like, you could have dismissed it as, like, oh, well, he's immortal, so he's gone through... tons of different forms of pain before. You're not going to be able to torture the information out of him.
And that would have been fun to see. Like, just, like, let like, what would Ibuki do to a fucking head? And then just, like, yeah, I mean, I feel like, yeah, it would have been a waste of time, but at the same time, it might have been interesting to see, like, and then again, they don't even really, they don't bring up the possibility, and I thought about it, and I was like, oh, I didn't know. So yeah. Though, I forget when that happened, but, and then one other thing I want to bring up is, did you have anything to say about the flashback? The Itachi Deidara flashback? Where he sees the Sharingan as art, and he's mortified. He's like, no, I can't. No, my art is the best. And he wants to beat Sasuke, kind of, to sort of prove himself, I guess.
I mean, I was okay with it. Like, I thought it made sense.
Yeah, I didn't think much of the flashback either way. Like, it was fine. It just, like, Deidara is all about art. And Itachi accidentally creates art. Like, you get the panel with him in the center and the two statues, and it looks kind of cool. Yeah. I mean, I guess one thing, though, is, like, they say art, like him and Sasori, but, I mean, they don't really define art. They just sort of expect the audience to know what Kishimoto thinks art is, I guess. Like,
or maybe...
because it's not exactly clear cut. Like, I think I know what art is, and I think everyone thinks they know what art is, but also no one, like, you get comments that are like, well, video games aren't art. Well, so now we have a distinction. So, is art in the quality of the work? Like,
well, maybe Kishimoto, through this, by not defining art, maybe he's trying to imply that, like, true art is interpretive. You can find art in...
It's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, like, Deidara and Sasori have, like, polar opposites of what art should be, and, like, I guess they don't even, like, really reach a middle ground between the two. It's just they each have their own ways of thinking, and they stick to it. So I guess,
like, yeah, Deidara seeing the Sharingan as art, or it's very moment to moment. Like, it's not, like, permanent. Like, with Sasori, he would find, like, a statue as art, but Deidara specifically finds this moment with Itachi standing between the statues. Like, that's as transient as an explosion, so I can see why he sees it as art. So that's a little interesting. So, I mean, I guess that's fine. But again, it's not like there's not like a deep thing to draw from it. It's just an interesting little motif between Deidara and Sasori, that even though Sasori's dead, and Deidara's dead now too.
You know what? Another thing I thought was kind of interesting about this fight, which some people could probably, like, if you saw it as a flaw, I could definitely understand why. But for personal reasons, I just think it's really cool. The part where, because you get that flashback with Itachi, and then, later in the fight, Sasuke uses, like, his genjutsu with his Sharingan, and then Deidara is just like, well, no, fuck you, I trained my left eye to be immune to the Sharingan, and he breaks it.
Yeah, see, I actually like that, because it makes sense the relationship with Itachi is kind of out of nowhere this arc, so it's a little bit, what's not rushed, but definitely a little bit like kind of like with the Sasuke retrieval arc, where Tsunade is like, oh, I called for backup, and then like, literally next chapter the sand ninjas appear, and it's very convenient, sudden, very convenient and sudden, and I feel like this could be seen a little bit the same way, but at the same time the Sharingan needs a fucking counter, so you know what, like, it doesn't even make sense, like, how did he trade his eye? But I don't care, because fuck the Sharingan, but
you basically took the words right out of my mouth.
Just yeah, let him have this, okay? I mean, like, I guess since we don't know how, it begs the question, like, Naruto could use some of that anti-Sharingan training, just throwing that out there.
Well, I mean, that's the eye that Deidara always has, his, like, bionic eye or whatever it is, and then
I forgot about that.
And then it's always covered by his hair, so, like, maybe
there's a few ways you could sort of, it's fine. Yeah, so I was fine with it. Though I guess, okay, we should probably stop beating around the bush, because you said if there's a flaw to this fight, and so I have some issues with the sort of like talking. They just sort of stand there and just explain their abilities to each other, which is that's just typical Naruto. But then after that, you get Deidara eating, he's got another mouth on his chest, and he eats some clay, and he does his greatest art, his explosion.
You could say he really went out with a bang.
And you also get one of the most infamous moments in the series. So, I have some things to say about this, but I'll let you go first.
I just, like, I mean, like, I don't have a problem with Datara's suicide bombing. I think it makes sense for his character that would be the way he'd go out. I like that he gets to go out on his own terms, because you have villains who will get Talk no Jutsu'd. You have even Orochimaru, who doesn't get that,
that's a good point.
But Orochimaru gets, destroyed by Sasuke, so he is kind of, like, confined to his, like, eternal hell or whatever. But then, with Datara, like, he commands the explosion. He kills himself. Like, not even Sasuke is going to take that from him. Like, and it also is a good way to continue to play off of the fact that Sasuke refuses to kill people because, like,
right, because that fucked him over here, because if he could have just tried to kill Deidara, but I mean, it's also maybe a little convenient for that because Deidara kills himself. Like, if Sasuke doesn't kill people, then he doesn't kill Deidara. Deidara, like, what? He just walks away. Deidara's still alive. So
I mean, it is a little convenient, but I do think, like, with the nature,
it's an out for Kishimoto, rather, is how I was going to put it.
But like, with the nature of Deidara's personality, like, it does make sense that my art isn't good enough. Well, fuck you. Yes, it is. I'm gonna show you my ultimate art. I think that, like, I don't know. I think it makes sense. He's a hothead. He has that explosive personality, both metaphorically and literally. So yeah, I do think that makes sense, and I do like how it continues to play off of Sasuke's refusal to kill people, because that is going to be contrasted later in the series after the big revelation Sasuke has after killing Itachi.
Yes.
Spoilers. But,
what? Sasuke kills Itachi? What?
Well, I mean, I guess technically that's not true, but, that's for the next arc. But yeah.
Well, but how do you feel about Sasuke's escape?
That's my
from
problem.
The explosion.
That's my problem. Like, how did he do it? I mean, like, he summoned the snake. But although before we get to that, I also like the moment where, because before we had seen that Sasuke, he's just sort of this, I don't want to say deadpan, but, like, he doesn't react to things. So, like, when you get a good bit of contrast when the moment when Suigetsu, like, has him, he's like, I have the advantage, but Sasuke just doesn't blink. He doesn't care. And then you have with Deidara.
But then this time he's clearly, like, off balance. Like, he's concerned. He's got sweat drops. He's not having the Deidara explosion thing. It's a nice contrast.
Well,
like
initially
you
do kind of get the non-reaction from Sasuke, where Deidara is talking about whatever, and then he's like, "Oh, you don't take me seriously. Like, you retracted your Sharingan, you little punk. I'm gonna show you fear." And then Sasuke gets, he's got to run away. He's got to retreat. He shows fear, which, I mean, I do like it, but. The snake summoning thing, like, I am okay with Sasuke surviving this blast, because, like, if you kill Sasuke here, where does the story go? You can't kill Sasuke.
Yes.
But, like, just the means through which he escapes don't make much sense. They come out of nowhere.
Okay. I'd actually say, like, honestly, the method, I find it imaginative. I like the idea of, like, summoning and then desummoning to get out of there. Like, I think that's an imaginative method. My issue with it, though, is that it had to, why Manda? Why Orochimaru's big fucking snake? Why basically the equivalent of Gamabunta? So, let me explain why that's a problem. Okay, Sasuke deactivated his Sharingan, and Deidara, like, it's either Deidara, Sasuke doesn't feel threatened by Deidara, or Sasuke's conserving chakra. Because he needs a lot of chakra to do a summon of one of the biggest summons in the series, something that's only been done by the Sannin, pretty much. Like, the only, like, can Kakashi summon is there a big dog summon that he hasn't done yet? Like, I don't know. That's the thing. It's like, I don't know how, but then this is a Sasuke that's at the, like, on his like, he's pretty beaten up here. He's used a lot of chakra. So, where does this chakra come from that allows him to summon Manda? And then hypnotize Manda all in the space of, like, okay, I was mentioning it before, but there's a bit of a time compression thing. Like, back with the Kakuzu thing, there's, like, one panel Kakuzu's about to attack, and the three Naruto clones are away from each other. And then, so between, like, that attack and, like, a few panels later, the three Naruto clones got together, did a Rasen Shuriken, which takes a few seconds, I think, and then got up behind Kakuzu. So, it's a little bit fast, but it's also, because it's manga, you're not 100% sure how much time it really takes either way. And so, here you have a very similar bit where you have like, Deidara does this massive fucking explosion, and, like, you see Tobi, who's God knows how far away, and Sasuke both bathed in light. But Sasuke was, like, point blank. So, like, do explosions give off light before they explode? I don't think so. That seems kind of weird. So, Sasuke's, like, right there. He should be dead already. But again, he can't be dead because he's Sasuke. So, you're trying to have me believe that, okay, so let's say, he summons Manda, he hypnotizes Manda with the Sharingan, he had enough chakra to do that after the extended fight, and then he desummons Manda. Okay, let's say you can accept that. Okay, well first, why did it have to be Manda? He summoned another snake earlier, right as the Deidara fight started. He summoned another snake, a smaller snake, that's still big enough to swallow Sasuke whole. It didn't need to be Manda. It didn't need to be one of the biggest summons in the series. He could have summoned a smaller snake. I might have been able to buy that a little easier. And then, and let's say, you can't accept that he can summon Manda in the state. Like, did he not have enough chakra to do the Chidori again?
Well, yeah, because, when he
that would have cost, what?
When he was, what was it, Deidara used, he shot clay snakes out of his hands, and Sasuke used his Chidori, and then he collapsed.
Yeah, so, how does he have enough chakra to summon Manda, but not enough to summon Chidori? Are you trying to say that, 3 years ago Sasuke could have summoned Manda? Like, he could use the Chidori twice? What? And then, cause he could have used the Chidori again, if you mentioned the no killing thing, would he really keep that up with this about to happen, with Deidara about to explode? Cause he could have gone Chidori, Sharingan. He used the Sharingan, and he used a technique that must have required more chakra than the Chidori, so why couldn't he just pierce Deidara's heart? Obviously, it would have disarmed the bomb, too. Electricity does that, so I could have, it didn't need, he didn't, again, I do like the summoning thing as a way to get out of danger, but it doesn't seem necessary. But if he could do that, it's so over the top. If he can do that, he doesn't need to do that. There's a simpler explanation as to how he could get out of this that's not taken. And the other issue with it, here's honestly the biggest issue I have with it, is that if you can accept that Sasuke somehow has enough chakra to summon Manda and hypnotize him after that whole fight, he's stronger than Orochimaru. He's stronger than Jiraiya. He could fight Pain. He's one of the strongest characters in the series. And this was definitely accidental, because after this, we find out he's alive, and Karin's Karin's shitting on him. He fended off 2 fucking Akatsuki members. What the fuck? No one has done that at this point. It took 4 Jonin to fend off 2 Akatsuki members, and Sasuke did it, admittedly, one of them was Tobi, and he's just fucking around. But Sasuke's still fucking, and Deidara's kind of that's Karin's giving him shit. What? How did you beat Orochimaru? You killed an Akatsuki member and fended off another one. You weak piece of shit. And Sasuke's well, Orochimaru is weakened. And I'm you're stronger than Orochimaru. What the fuck? You just I don't. So yeah. Again, if you can accept that Sasuke can do this, then how is that good for the story? Because Sasuke is stronger than Itachi. He's and that's the other thing, is he needs to be as strong as Itachi, and so now he is, but he doesn't recognize, the story doesn't acknowledge that he is. It's acting like he's weak, or weaker than he. So yeah, I enjoy this moment more than most people. Again, I'm fine with the teleportation stuff. Again, it is a bit quick, but I can, if I could accept it with Naruto and Kakuzu, I think I can accept it with Sasuke. It's just the hypnosis. Here, oh yeah, that's the other thing, is with the other snake. Later on, we get Jiraiya summoning, he summons a toad, and that toad has a personality quirk. He's I'm ungraceful. So, okay, have Sasuke summon a snake who's loyal to Sasuke. That's his personality quirk. Set it up, and then have him summon that snake, so now you don't need to hypnotize him. It's just one summon and desummon. Because he's a giant fucking snake. The whole thing with snakes is that their stomachs stretch. They can easily swallow, that snake could easily swallow Sasuke. It doesn't need to be Manda. It doesn't need to be the biggest fucking huge snake in the series. I think I'm done.
I mean, I think maybe you could say that Sasuke possibly hypnotized him before the fight.
Could you?
And then, maybe he just had it in reserve, because, maybe it happened when,
Well, the way it sort of, plays out is that, Suigetsu has the scroll, so it feels like this was just sort of, a plan in the case that Sasuke got, screwed, but I feel like, he didn't expect this fight to happen.
No.
Like, he was looking for Itachi, not Deidara, so it just, like, and how long would the hypnosis last? Like, was Manda just sitting in the snake world hypnotized? Like, we don't know about the summon worlds yet, because we find about the toad world in the next arc.
I'm just gonna
so
go
yeah,
with
like, see, and the thing... Go on.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with the explanation that feeds my ego the most. Deidara was too awesome of a character that Kishimoto didn't know how to handle him, and that's why this happened.
I think that's kind of what happened. Kishimoto wrote himself into a bit of a corner, and, like, because again, he can't kill Sasuke. And, I mean, I feel like the easiest way to handle it would have just been to have Sasuke break his, killing thing. Like, this is touch on that, expand on his character a bit. Instead, they sort of, like, because he has to have Sasuke survive in a way that doesn't, he doesn't kill someone. He wants Itachi and Orochimaru are his only kills. And even with Orochimaru, he doesn't really kill him. Itachi finishes the job, as we come to see. So, I feel like he's going a bit, like, he hemmed himself into a corner. And, like, that's the thing is, like, I feel like a lot of people use this moment as a way to, like, shit on Sasuke, because it's, he wrote himself into a corner and had to get Sasuke out, and he did so in a way that accidentally built Sasuke up as the strongest character in the series, when he shouldn't be. Yeah. And he isn't. But, so if you see Sasuke, if you don't like Sasuke, in this moment just fucking, like, rip open your wound and rub salt in it, And so, I don't think this moment really hurts his character. It's just Kishimoto getting into a corner and forcing him, and what else could he do? Like my best fix is, characterizing another snake, which could have been done, but but still would have had the time compression issue. And then the other fix would have killed Deidara, which Kishimoto's going out of his way to make sure Sasuke's not killing anyone except Itachi. So, there's issues that it's not my best fixes aren't the easiest.
Yeah, it's
fixes,
not an easy fix. I mean, he really wrote
Yes.
himself into a hell of a corner here.
Yeah. Like, again, I like the idea of the summoning to get out of danger, even if there's a bit of the issue with the point blank massive fucking explosion. But, so again, I do think I'm more tolerant of this moment than most, but, it's still like, and again, it doesn't really, for me, it doesn't negatively impact Sasuke's character, because I do like his character up to this point. Like,
yeah.
This arc, the problem with this arc isn't that, like, Sasuke's character is bad in it, it's that everything around Sasuke's character is less good. Like, you get the Deidara fight was good, but it's like, his buddies aren't good, and then this moment is, yeah, if you want to bitch about Sasuke's character, and you point to this moment, I can't argue. I could argue against a lot of the stuff that happens earlier, like, the stuff I didn't understand before, but this one is, I can't.
Yeah, there's not much you can do to fix this.
Not great.
Although, one of my bigger issues with this moment was that when, after the fact, like, Deidara does this, and Sasuke escapes, and so you'd think, well, like, at least, after that huge fight, like, he would be, he'd be down for a bit. Like, you'd think he would have to recover from that or whatever. Like, that was a huge fight that came out of nowhere, but he's like, no, just a little bit of rest and I'm okay to move immediately.
Yeah. I've got Orochimaru inside of me. It works. It just works. So
I mean, I do get it.
Yeah,
it's just Deidara. Like, he's not a major villain. He's not a big, like, linchpin in the series. But come on. Like, he had this massive, like,
I mean,
his
would a time skip? Well, I guess the issue is that, like, Naruto was, like, right on, and Kiba were right on his tail, and so they, like, he couldn't just, like, time skip it, because that would have made the most sense, I think. It was a little time skip, but at the same time, I don't think it could, because, like, this whole arc takes place over the course of, like, a day. Like, I think, yeah, like, they go right after this, they go into Itachi, so, yeah, like, in one day, Sasuke, or no, I think there was a time difference between Sasuke killing Orochimaru and forming Hebi, but like, yeah, once they start looking for Itachi, they find Deidara and then they find Itachi, like that's like, and then Jiraiya happens to go after Pain at the same time, so it's all one day.
Yeah, because you've got moments like Sasuke like restraining Jugo when he goes to go berserk or whatever, and then he goes right to fight Itachi not long after this. So even if you wanted to like, I don't know, I don't think he really does time skip it. It just sort of, they just jump right into it, and it doesn't.
Yeah, so
like at least and I mean, it is only Datara. He's a minor character, but with such his attack was massive.
Well, he's still an
Like,
Akatsuki member. They're supposed to be big deals.
Well, when
so.
you think of the scale of his attack, this is probably one of the bigger attacks in the series to this point, and it does nothing.
I'd say the biggest up to this point. There's later stuff that I don't know about, but at this point, yeah,
it's completely meaningless. It doesn't take anyone out besides himself. It doesn't even wound Sasuke really. Sasuke was mainly just down for the fight.
I'm not sure how to feel about this, but with Toby, they don't even bother explaining how he got out of the explosion.
With Toby,
they just oh.
I mean, with Toby,
well, they're I think he's dead, and then it turns out he's also Madara Uchiha. We get to the pain reveal, and then Toby's Madara. So that's how he escaped. He's fucking Madara.
But we will so, even towards the tail end of what we read, you see the moment where Naruto goes to use the Rasengan and just phases right through him. So we will, he's pretty quickly after this find out how his powers work. He can.
Yeah, they've kept his
they've kept him pretty vague.
They kept his abilities kind of unclear, but he definitely has intangibility, and it makes sense that he escaped the explosion. I just think it's kind of funny that they didn't he didn't even bother explaining. It's just he's Madara, that's how he escaped.
Well, I mean, I don't even
because for Sasuke he goes through so much to explain how he got out of the explosion. Toby is just he's Toby.
Although I do think that is, I think it's cool that he doesn't explain it right away, because with Toby, he's such I don't want to say a non-character, but he's been a non-factor really up to this point. He's just been a comedy act with Datara. He's just kind of there. And so he's in the range of this explosion, and so everyone's oh, okay, well Datara and Toby are both dead. They're gone. But we never even hear anything about Toby. And then we just see that he shows up with Pain later, shortly after this. So it's pretty clear at that point that he's got some sort of teleportation ability, because to go from this potential the site where Datara fought Sasuke to quickly be in the same location as Pain, I think it does kind of give a bit of a hint towards what he can do. And plus by not explaining it, then it still keeps him a pretty vague character, so that when he does show up, when he kind of clashes with Naruto's squad, then that's when Kishimoto sort of flips the switch with his character, where it's okay, this comedy act is over. He's a serious bad guy now. And I think that is pretty effective.
No real, which now that I think about it, well, I mean, but why does he do it? Why does Toby just decide, I'm Madara now? I mean, or maybe I'm misremembering, because there's the moment here, Did the moment you said the moment with Naruto happened after this?
Yeah, because this fight happens, and then you get all the stuff with Jiraiya, and then Toby shows up in front of Naruto's group.
Okay, because I don't remember how he was acting. Because if he's acting like Toby, then it's fine. But if he's acting like Madara for no reason, then it's
because when he's talking to Pain, he's because he seems to be the leader behind the Akatsuki when he's talking to Pain, because Pain is answering to him. But then when he shows up back in front of Naruto, then he's being Toby again.
Okay, see that I didn't remember, so I wasn't sure. But okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. I mean, of course, it turns out he's neither Toby nor Uchiha Madara. Whoops. He's Obito secretly, which is it's funny because there's the one bit where he's standing on the Madara statue, and it turns out he's not actually Madara. So it's he just likes that statue, I guess. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, Karin does the thing with Sasuke's rag, and to get rid of the trace, and then Naruto bumps into Itachi.
Yeah, just casually just bumps into him.
Yep, it just happened. Oh yeah, Naruto says the thing where might not be blood, but he's more of a brother to me than you are to him. And Itachi kind of smiles, which I think we're supposed to, at this point, we're supposed to take as Itachi being a dick, oh, you're very funny, Naruto, but I think is also, I mean, I don't exactly remember a lot of what Itachi thinks about Naruto, because but I do, but knowing what little I do of Itachi, he's, he likes Sasuke, or he wants Sasuke to live, and I don't know, it was an interesting little moment, so.
Yeah, because I guess thinking, Sasuke does have people who care about him, so it's
somehow.
Yeah, he couldn't really be there. He had to be this villain, this obstacle for Sasuke to overcome. And so I guess that'd be good for him to know that there are people who do care about Sasuke to the extent that Naruto is showing.
Yeah, it's a neat little thing. Oh yeah, and then we get this moment with Jiraiya and Tsunade in the drinking, and Jiraiya's like popping death flags like shot glasses.
See, initially I was going into this moment like, oh, here's the moment where all the death flags show up, and I don't like it for that. But in this instance, like the way it's handled, I think it makes sense, because like what I really like in these moments is that it's showing the effects of Orochimaru's supposed death, and how, because these three, I mean, they were comrades, they were squad mates once before, so
right.
It is showing that like they are visibly affected by his death. Like, even though he was their enemy, like with Tsunade in particular, like she seems pretty broken up about it. So even like the way that she's acting towards Jiraiya, like, oh, don't die, don't go off and, you know, don't die like Orochimaru or whatever. And it's more like hypothetical, like, there's this panel where she's like, if I lost you too, like, I think it makes sense. It's dare I say, a tasteful way to handle death flags, because it's not quite as obvious, I guess. Like, I mean, it's still obvious that, like,
well, the most obvious one to me was when Jiraiya was like, but if I make it back alive, like,
yeah,
that, just the calling in the question, that's when I was a little like, okay, sure. Like, it wasn't as bad as, like, say, the third Hokage, but,
although, at least in this instance, like, I know in the last arc, we had a lot to say about Asuma's death flags. But, like, at least in this arc, I felt as though, I don't know, Jiraiya's death flags were less grating on me. Because, like, with Asuma, he was, like, a non-character up to this point. And then he shows up in an arc, gets all this importance, and then dies. With Jiraiya, he had done stuff. Yes. So, like, I don't know, it feels more genuine, I guess, less artificial, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you also get the it's a good point that, I mean, because while I was talking about how, like, it feels like this is, like, the heavy arc, in a sense, like, but Jiraiya suddenly getting his focus, because this is, like, the most disconnected stuff from the death of Orochimaru. Like, I mean, they're talking about, you know, with Tsunade and stuff, but he just says, like, oh yeah, I found out where the leader of the Akatsuki is, so I'm gonna go check that out. And, like, you know, that could have happened any time, kind of. Like, that's how I get the feeling.
Yeah, another thing I really like, I know I kind of touched on it earlier, but just, like, the way things are structured here, because, like, you jump around from, like, we start with Naruto's gang, they're doing stuff, and then you jump to Sasuke, then you jump back to Naruto's group, and then you've got, like, stuff going on with Kabuto, and you've got stuff going on with Jiraiya. So there's a lot happening in this section of the story, and it all kind of, it, like, before, where, like, certain arcs have a very clean break to it, and you can just jump straight into the next one. Here, a lot of it all blends together, and I do think it's a really cool section of the story where so much is going on in the background while other things are happening. And,
you know, another thing, I kind of just realized this, because I was talking about how, like, I feel like with Orochimaru, he kind of, like, he was forced to include him earlier than he might have planned, and, and he didn't really plan him out, so he just kind of, like, peters, you know, the whole thing just kind of, like, peters out and just falls over. But I think I did notice that there's, like, a lot of foreshadowing to stuff that comes in later. Like, we get the first mention of, the Uzumaki, clan, who, you know, they mentioned Naruto's mom, who specifically as Uzumaki Kushina. You know, I think they mentioned, you know, I don't know if they've given us the fourth Hokage's surname, but, you know, he's not of the Uzumaki. So, and I think Karin is also in that same clan somehow, right?
Don't get into that discussion. I don't know a whole lot about it, and
okay. Well, because I seem to remember something about the red hair.
I mean, I think she is. It would make sense.
Yeah. So I feel like he's got that in mind. He mentions the Sage of Six Paths gets mentioned. I think there was another thing that gets. Well, obviously you got the Toby Madara stuff. Because there, you know, we know it's Obito, but he's also building into that. I feel like there was something else I missed. Like, I don't want to say the Kabuto stuff, because that's just but I feel like with the Akatsuki, like, I feel like I could see Kishimoto growing as a storyteller, because I just feel like he's planned this shit out a bit at this point. Unlike with Orochimaru, like with the Akatsuki, he seems to have a bit better idea of what he's trying to do. And so he's, you know, so like, yeah, so, like, there's stuff getting mentioned here that doesn't come up, get expanded on until later, and that's fine, that's good, you know? So, it's just a little bit more, I just feel like the overarching elements are, especially with the villains, are a bit more cohesive at this point.
Yeah, this is where I really started to notice, like, before I had thought that, like, the overall narrative of Naruto was sort of, like, I thought a lot of it was more improvised than it seems to actually be, because a lot of this now, there's clear foreshadowing for a bunch of different details that you brought up. So,
yes.
Yeah, it definitely makes everything feel a lot more cohesive than I originally thought.
Right. Like, I feel like the improvisation was more on Orochimaru's side, like, for the earlier parts. So I can definitely see how, like, you know, you started the series like, oh, Orochimaru, he's doing things for some reason. And then you sort of get that idea that Naruto's like this. And then you just sort of keep that idea. But now looking at it with a more critical eye, we're like, oh yeah, the Akatsuki is a bit more well-planned. Though again, there's some issues like with Naruto's characterization. But it's definitely a bit more, cohesive. We're just repeating ourselves at this point. So yeah, anyway, I guess, like, was that all there was? Oh yeah, we did get a moment with Sasuke. He meets another Itachi's got like this crow clone thing going on. He's just being a dick and like, oh, I'll meet you there. And you know, they're setting up to the fight. Because that's the thing, like, so I mentioned it before, but the Jiraiya stuff is kind of separate from the Itachi stuff, but it keeps cutting back to Sasuke and Naruto, so it feels like it's all part of one arc. You know, from Sasuke killing Orochimaru to Sasuke killing Itachi. You know?
Well, yeah, there really is the strong parallel between the two, because you've got, in one half, Sasuke's sort of teacher he dies, and then in the next, Naruto's teacher dies, and then you're going to get Sasuke's fight with Itachi, which is kind of it gives his character arc closure, and then with Naruto, when he fights Pain, his character arc comes to a close as well. So it really does feel like the series has been building up to a lot at this point, and
this is a lot of that payoff.
Yeah, we're finally getting to those payoffs, which we haven't gotten to it yet, but we'll figure out, like, because the issue that some shonen series will have is that you'll get all this build up, and then the payoff is lackluster. Like, I think of Frieza in Dragon Ball, where you get this whole arc where we're just building and building to this massive threat, and then when he actually shows up and starts fighting, it's underwhelming, because you just can't really live up to that sheer amount of build-up. Mm-hmm. Although I feel like
you mentioned that, see, because Pain, man, I'm not sure if I'm going to have a Pain rant next time. Cause it depends on, I'm expecting to have a Pain rant though, so we'll see. Cause, I don't want to talk about it now. Cause at this point, like, I'm honestly, like, cause this is a lot of build up. Like, we get, you know, Jiraiya enters the Rain Village, he's interrogating some guys, and, you know, Pain is revered as a god. And like, well, he's built up a lot. Like, there's this, like, Hanzo, I think he was, the old leader of the Rain Village. And he, like, this is a guy who, you know, he was strong enough to spare the Sannin, but then Pain somehow just fucking kills this guy, and Jiraiya's like, what the fuck? You can't do that. So, you know, Pain's definitely at a, like, you know, I was mentioning a bit earlier with the Sasuke stuff, and it's like, you know, Orochimaru and Jiraiya and Tsunade have been built up as the strongest characters in the series thus far, sort of rivalry, you know, with their only rivals being the Akatsuki, really. Itachi being, like, maybe he could kill Jiraiya, but, you know, it's unclear. And then you get Pain, who just outright kills Jiraiya, and, like, oh, okay, so, you know, we're getting into we're touching the power ceiling, is what's happening here. So,
So how did you feel about, because you did mention Hanzo, he gets brought up. How did you feel about, like, a character giving them the title of, like, the three great shinobi? Because, like, up until this point, it just kind of seemed like, sort of like what would you call it? Not like a thing of legend, but, like, a thing that's just sort of passed around, like it was just sort of a legacy that just came out of whatever they did. But here you get a moment where it's like, nope, a guy gave them that title, and so everybody just stuck with it.
Well, see, the weirdest thing about it is that he gives them the title, and they're, like, the only three ninjas, like, they're the only four ninjas there. So how did was Jiraiya go, like, oh yeah, he called us the Sannin, we're the best? Like, like, what happened? Yeah. Like, how did it get out? Like, I mean, because I feel like, I mean, I guess I'm trying to think of how I feel, because examples is like usually there's like an organization, like the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist. Like that's like a thing. The Mist keeps seven swordsmen around just because they can, kind of. Like there's the like later on there's the one guy with like the glasses or something who's with the Mizukage, and he's like one of the swordsmen, and like everyone else is fucking dead because they needed to get revived for the Edo Tensei. So it's like that's an organization, but it's like with this, it's like the three ninjas. They just happen to be a ninja team that are really strong. So I feel like I don't know. I guess I'm not too invested in it, but I feel like I've seen better nicknames and stuff implemented. But I don't have a major one. I don't feel strongly one way or the other on this.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's a little clunky, but whatever.
Yeah, because I had initially kind of thought seemed a little, but like I guess you could say that like maybe Hanzo, since he's the guy who gave them the name, like maybe he spread the tale somehow, because like he was the one who named them, so it's like I guess I could see him doing that, because otherwise it would be like why name them that if it isn't going to do anything. I don't know. I guess that could be a way to like.
Though I guess another thing I thought of,
like convey his power, like I created these three, like this is their legacy, but I started it. I don't know.
Right. I mean, I guess it's mostly to build up Hanzo. Though I did remember the White Fang of Konoha, who's also a character. Like, this is one character who's on the level of these three together. But, I don't know, like, how strong are these three at this point? Like, they're not notable enough to catch Hanzo's eye. And they do go on to be pretty great ninja. But, like, are they, like, how close is this Jiraiya to the Jiraiya who fought Pain is what I'm wondering. And, so, I mean, it's not a bad thing that he's keeping the power levels a little vague, because that allows for more room for expanding on it later. Though, you know, for me, it just, like, makes me wonder. And then, what I was going to say with the, I thought about the White Fang of Konoha because he's also a character who is compared to the Sannin. Like, the Sannin are, like, the setting-wide benchmark. Like, Kakashi is used a lot as an individual benchmark, especially back in the past, But, I totally forgot to mention earlier with Kakashi, because I thought it was interesting that he told Naruto that, like, oh, you might surpass me one of these days, when back in the training arc he was like... Exactly. Well, so he's, like, telling Naruto... He's not telling Naruto that he's... Or did he say to Naruto that he surpassed him? I forget.
I don't think so.
Because I like the idea... Because he might have told Yamato that, but I like the idea that he's not... He's keeping Naruto's ego down. He's not saying like, "Man, Naruto, you surpassed me. You better, good nice job." He's saying, "Well, Naruto, you're not at my level yet, so you better keep training." You know, he's leaving room for Naruto to improve.
Yeah, it definitely gives me like a Master Roshi, like Kami Sennin vibe, in that he's like in early Dragon Ball, he takes on the persona of Jackie Chun just as like a way to make sure that like Goku and Krillin, like they know that there is still, like, they haven't hit the power ceiling, they're not the top, like they still have to work to improve. And so like Kakashi kind of does that here with Naruto, where it's like, hey, you've already surpassed me, but I'm not going to let you know that, because if I tell you that, then maybe you'll, I guess, lose that drive, or, you know, something like that.
Yeah. It was a little character detail. So I forget what my point was, but yeah, so we I don't know, we get the benchmark of the Sannin getting touched upon. I guess like what we really need to take from it is the whole fight. Though before we get to the fight, there was the whole bit with the like we find out that Jiraiya weakened the seal on Naruto because he wanted Naruto to get stronger, and it didn't work. It fucked up.
It didn't.
Oh yeah.
Work.
And this is the first time we get Yin and Yang chakra mentioned, which comes up later. Like, I don't even know what it fucking is. Like, what is it supposed to be?
So, like, it sort of implies that, like, he only has half of the Nine Tails chakra now, which, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. And where's the other half? Is it just around? And then, again, like, what is it supposed... Like, because Yin and Yang are, like, they're philosophical concepts. So how does chakra represent... like, you know, electric chakra? You know, I get it. I understand what it's supposed to be. Yin chakra? Okay. Like, it'll get expanded on later. It's just a really weird thing that's being kept vague right now. And I see potential issues. Like, what is it? I don't know. I do know that it gets explained later. Oh yeah, and they also bring up the Uchiha Madara again, kind of, oh, Uchiha lived during the early days of Konoha. There's no way he was still alive 16 years ago. They're just kind of like, and then of course, like, right after that, we get that panel I mentioned earlier with Toby chilling on the Madara statue. You know, just, why not? He felt like it. I'm trying to think of what else I had to say on this, because we also get the whole Chosen One thing, which, well, one thing I thought was, actually kind of like, because people say like, oh, Chosen One, fate and destiny, and all that stuff, and it goes against the theme of the earlier Naruto. Now I'm not so sure about that, because the whole thing about the Chosen One thing is that they're not like chosen by fate, they're chosen by Jiraiya.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, like, it's very clear, like, the choice is very clearly placed on Jiraiya's shoulders.
More like Jiraiya,
I mean, it's a pretty easy choice.
Like, Jiraiya's he's the guy who was, like, dictated by the prophecy, because, like, he's the one who has to make the choice, so, like...
Right, and he had, like, as we see this arc, he had other pupils who weren't Naruto. Like, the whole thing is that he thought that Nagato might have been the chosen one at some point, and... but then Naruto is the one Jiraiya chose. Like, Naruto chose Jiraiya accidentally, or other way around. Why'd I say that? He named his main character Naruto, and, Minato was like, hey, that's a cool name, I'm fucking plagiarizing that, I'm naming my son after your book, and Jiraiya's like, oh, okay. I'm naming my son Dovahkiin after, Skyrim. This is a thing that actually happened in real life.
Oh my goodness.
Unfortunately. But, no, the idea is there. But, yeah, so, like, that's the whole thing. So, I guess, like, I guess now my question is, did Jiraiya choose Naruto? Like, I feel like the whole thing that we're supposed to take from it is that Jiraiya chose Naruto as he died, basically. He rejected pain and chose Naruto, but I guess, because they mentioned the book thing with the whole prophecy. And that,
so it was sort of
I
like...
guess the implication is that Jiraiya chose Naruto through his books.
Yeah, kind of like he chose Jiraiya, Jiraiya chose himself. That Jiraiya chose Naruto kind of from the very beginning, just without knowing it.
Right, which kind of takes, like, because my idea was that, Naruto is chosen by Jiraiya, but if he accidentally chose Naruto through his books, it kind of takes away from that, I guess. So, which, I mean, again, it goes back to the whole fate and destiny argument, because people always say, like, Neji was right, Naruto was chosen by fate, but I'm not quite sure if that's the case, or what Kishimoto intended there, because, again, there's a bit of, iffiness to the whole thing. Maybe as I'm skimming through it, I'll come to a different conclusion, or maybe it'll be part of my pain rant.
Although I do think it is sort of interesting that, like, the prophecy talks about, like, a child of destruction and a child, or like either they will bring great destruction or great peace or whatever. And so you kind of get both worlds here, in that you get Pain, who is trying to destroy everything.
Nukes the Leaf Village.
And then you have Naruto, who's defending it.
And then you get Naruto.
So, like...
And also could destroy it because he's the nine-tailed fox. Yeah. So, like, I mean, so, you still get a bit of, like, choice there. Was choice a huge part of Neji's thing? I'm trying to remember. Like, because Naruto still chose to save the world instead of destroying it, you could say. So, like, I mean, people just latch onto the Chosen One thing and just sort of automatically think it's dismissing the earlier themes, but now I'm not so sure, so, I don't know.
Well, I mean, like, if you want to talk about Neji's story, like, the way his father died, like, he chose, like, it was a big thing for him, because he could choose.
Yeah, that he chose. Because that undercut Neji's, ideology, which is why he had his character development. Yeah. So... I don't know. I'd have to look back and maybe see ahead to really settle on that. But maybe, I don't know, maybe someone in the comments is thinking differently now. Or maybe everyone's just going to keep thinking the same thing they've been thinking and completely ignore the fact that we're discussing and trying to open ourselves up to alternate interpretations.
Well, I know that a big thing
because that's the thing is like kind of what I was talking about earlier with One Piece and the memes of like, oh, it's slow paced. Like, bitch, I will fucking cut you. Yeah, it's like, the Chosen One thing is another meme, and now that I've reread this arc, I'm not so sure how justified it is, I mean, maybe later on I'll change my tune, but as of now, it's like, well, there's more choice to it than might have been intended, that you might realize if you just hear the Chosen One and just like, yeah, okay, that's fair, So,
well, I know, because earlier throughout this podcast, I was talking about like, oh, Naruto is the underdog, but he also is the Chosen One later. So that's an interesting point that you bring up. It's an interesting thing to consider.
Yeah.
Maybe I was wrong.
So moving on a bit, I did want to mention this because how did you feel about the brief Jiraiya versus Conan exchange, where we have the only female Akatsuki member getting like immediately just covered in oil and basically blown out? Like, no Akatsuki member has been dispatched so easily as Conan gets dispatched. Gets. I mean, she doesn't get dispatched. That's a little much, but she just.
I mean, I didn't really take it as like a loss. Like she gets covered. I mean, to be fair, also the fact that Jiraiya recognized her because of her ability, so like of course he would know how to counter that. But,
yeah, that's fair. And he still got to, or what? Because she had to get saved. Well, she did get saved by Pain because he I don't know uses the foam to wipe off the oil, and and then he says, "Go away."
Like, it didn't give me the feeling that like, oh, she had to be saved by him. It just kind of seemed like he showed up at that time, and it's like, oh, okay, so then she was able to leave.
So, yeah,
well, and then plus like the way that she carried herself,
not as bad as
like,
I might have thought,
it didn't feel like she was defeated because like she was still there wasn't.
Yeah, she very stoic is what she's.
There wasn't like a stubborn defiance or anything with it. She was just stoic, like you said. So to me, it didn't really feel like a defeat.
I still thought it was worth being brought up because it's another one of those memes I've had in mind for a while. But now that you mentioned, you convinced me against my meme. I'm a meme. I don't know. So yeah, but yeah, she kind of like because the only real fight she gets is against Obito, I think, right?
Yeah,
that's the only one I remember. So oh well, but that's later. This is now because now we're getting the flashback where we're learning about. Did you have anything to say on the flashback? Because we get Jiraiya talks to Nagato about pain and saying like pain is why people are empathetic. Why oh, I got hurt. I don't want that person to get hurt.
I rather like this flashback because unlike other flashbacks that we've seen, this isn't. It's not like we're fleshing out Jiraiya's backstory just to kill him off, because here there's another purpose to it, because at this point we don't really know anything about Pain. He had been built up in the background for so long that like he was just a mystery, but he was like, the head of the Akatsuki, he's this mysterious figure. But now
we had his motivation, or like what he wanted to do, like last time he explained himself, but kind of.
But now we're getting a little more, we're getting more of a glimpse of like how Pain came to be, like we're learning more about him.
It's a Jiraiya flashback and it's a Nagato flashback. Like it's dual purpose, which is nice. Yes. Because like compare this to like the Gaara flashback where it's like, oh, look how sad Gaara was and look how he turned into a monster. Like that was it. That was the whole purpose of the flashback. So it's just kind of lackluster. Well, this is it's multi. There's reasons for it. There are more reasons for it. So it's fine.
Yeah. So that's why I don't have as much of a problem with it as other flashbacks I've had issues with.
So I'm trying to think of what else to say about the flashbacks.
I mean, as far as
because there's a few scattered throughout.
As far as the details of it, I do think the setup with like the three kids, like you've got Yahiko and Nagato and then Conan. I do think it's sort of interesting how the whole thing is played up with like the confusion as to who is Pain. Is it Nagato? Is it Yahiko? Who?
I mean, see, I saw what he was trying to do there, but like I personally already know, and I also like I'm trying to think like under what circumstance would I believe that it was Yahiko? I'm trying to think like because everyone has the Rinnegan, so and because eye stealing hasn't really been established at this point, so like it's kind of there with Itachi, but it's also not. Like it hasn't at this point. We haven't seen the levels it gets to, like with Danzo putting like a million eyes in his arm and shit. So it's like I'm just trying to think of like how are we not supposed to think it's Nagato, but it is something. I don't know. It's not too bad. It's just a little like I'm not sure if it needed the mystery. Is what I guess I'm trying to say.
But I mean, it's ultimately cleared up at the end of this whole exchange. So like I think it's good enough for like the fight. Like it. Like, it's not something that they drag out, like, oh, who could it be? Which one is it? Like, I mean, it's enough to kind of throw a wrench in Jiraiya's fight, but also it gets resolved by the end of it. So, I don't know, it's just another cool way to kind of keep the origins of Pain mysterious. Like, try to keep him sort of I don't know, it's a good way to continue to give him that presence. Like, there's this, I mean, he'd been built up for so long, and now we kind of have this question of, well, he could be any of two people. It's like, who is he? So it's like, even Jiraiya, who kind of knows these kids, doesn't really know his identity straight off the bat. Yeah,
that's the thing, because Jiraiya's been so separate from him that he doesn't know Nagato anymore either way. So, and then there's even more confusion with it. It's fine. I don't know. It's just I don't have a lot of strong feelings about this. Like, well, because about the fight itself, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of just the Pain has another form that can do this.
The locale is pretty interesting. Like like they're in like this sewer sort of thing.
Oh yeah, the setting is definitely one of the more interesting battle fight. Like, I mean, because Sasuke and Deidara were fighting. Where were they fighting? Another fucking forest. Like, as if we haven't had enough of that already. But, the locale is interesting, but they just keep, Jiraiya has Sage Mode, and then, we need a Genjutsu. We have a Genjutsu that's a little hard to use. They just kind of, and then, Pain, they just kind of keep having stuff.
Well, then plus the Renegon is something new we've never heard of.
Yes, so, I mean, we really this fight is more building into the Naruto fight, the Pain versus Naruto, sort of establishing Pain's abilities before he attacks Konoha. And so in that it's fine, but as its own fight, I just wasn't really feeling it. On the technical scale,
it's just new powers.
It's just characters introducing new stuff. Yeah. Yes, so it's not satisfying on that front. Emotionally, I guess you could argue that it's there, but at the same, I mean, it's not bad. I've never been a huge Jiraiya fan.
I will say
and
though,
this arc didn't really change
that the cover of Volume 42 that one got me a little bit. That was a good cover.
Okay,
especially when you know that's this is the volume where he dies. Oh.
Yes, that's fair. I mean, I don't think his death it was better than Ozma a bit, which I was fine with Ozma's death, and because there's a little moment where he's drifting in the water and he's like, oh yeah, my next book, and he didn't. That's it. That's his death. So, and I'm also they don't bring him back for the war. Which, I mean, my question is, why wouldn't Obito do that? I understand why Kishimoto wouldn't. He just didn't want to, probably didn't have anything to add from doing that, from bringing Jiraiya back. So it's fine. But, we'll talk about that when we get there, because I'm not sure how
maybe it could be, because, I mean, we had Hidan, who was buried underground and dismembered. With Jiraiya, maybe it's he was in the ocean, so, or not the ocean, but, who knows how deep that water was. Maybe he couldn't get to him. Yeah.
I mean, not that he either Kabuto or had problems getting bodies before. Anyway, it's not too big a deal, and we'll probably talk about it later. But, I mean, I do like the whole thing with the Renegon having multiple, they all, I mean, because, as we know later, they all feed into the main Nagato body, who's, the withered husk.
I mean, the Renegon is pretty OP. I mean, at this point, it's not really established to that. So far, it's just, they have, complete vision. Which is, I mean, that's a pretty difficult thing to overcome. But it's also not something that...
Yeah, well...
I mean, Jiraiya does overcome it for a bit. He's able to take down 3 of the Pains initially.
Yeah, he's got a nice little trick to stop that. But,
yeah, I did think it was interesting how the Genjutsu is actually sort of useful here. Because, you have... the Renegon, which is perfect vision, so it's the Sharingan, sort of Byakugan Sharingan. It's another one of those eyes, which is can apparently seems to be invincible, but yet Jiraiya is able to take him down. Well, more so the frogs are able to take him down through sound. So it's not like he's invincible.
Yes, right, and because he gives the information to the old frogs are getting information, and then he gives a message on the back of the one at the end before. So this is definitely important for what's to come. Yeah. So I forget where I was going with that. Though, hold on, I think I had something to say. Because there's the bit where Jiraiya finds out that all the Pain bodies are ninjas he's had experience with. Though, of course, we as the audience don't recognize any of them, because that's just how it goes. Except for Yuiko. Well, even then. But, I guess the thing is, I don't know, was Nagato Like, why? I'm trying to think of why did
Because
Nagato...
it's like,
if
did
they
he
mentioned it
intentionally
here.
pick all those bodies because Jiraiya would know about them? That seems highly unlikely because he never planned to encounter Jiraiya in the first place.
Or was he really that? Like, what's the... Did he feel, like, left behind by Jiraiya? When, like, what's the... I'm just completely missing some...
So maybe there's, like, character context that
something.
hasn't been explained yet. Like, there's a reason.
Yeah. The one thing I did find interesting was how, like, Jiraiya is sort of like, oh, I'm kind of a failure. I couldn't stop Orochimaru from getting evil. I never got it on with Tsunade. Both my, everyone I love is dead except Naruto. And, so...
And it's not like it's something that was just established here. Like, there have been... I think there were a couple little moments throughout the series where Jiraiya kind of comments on, like, he doesn't really do a whole lot.
Yeah, but he gets to go out on his own, in a fairly dignified manner. Like he goes out fighting at like one of the strongest ninjas we've seen established at this point. Pain's got the it's fine. I can see why if people really like Jiraiya, they'd probably really like this death scene. It's a pretty solid death scene. Again, Jiraiya is just one of those characters who it's like he's fine. I just don't have strong feelings. I didn't get my eyes didn't water when he died. It's fine.
Yeah, I didn't really have that super strong emotional reaction either. Although I will say, like, it's not like his death wasn't bad or anything. It's just
no. It was it's okay. It's okay.
Although I thought it was kind of odd that like when he has his big moment, it's like, oh, I'm gonna die a failure, but then he's like, wait a minute, no, and he kind of, I guess, wills himself back to life. It was odd how Pain, he had walked away because there was like a quote where he's like, I thought his heart stopped beating, which I guess it's not to the same level as like Demon King Piccolo or Piccolo Daimo going up to Goku and pressing his like listening for Goku's heartbeat and not hearing it. It's like, oh, okay, his heart has stopped beating. So like it's possible that Pain was just an idiot and just didn't. He kind of assumed rather than what's the word? It's not like it's not quite on the same level as that Dragon Ball moment, but still, it's a little. I don't know. It seems a bit careless on Pain's part.
No, that's fair.
Granted, it's not to the same level of contrived as like
was...
Sasuke summoning the snake to survive Datara's blast. Comparatively, this is not even an issue, but it is something to note.
Well, it's actually kind of funny that you mentioned that because even though that's an issue, I still like the Deidara Sasuke fight better than this one. Even though the ending to the Sasuke fight is way more of an issue than the end that bit in the Jiraiya one.
Yeah, I agree with you too.
Though I guess, one thing I want to say that I didn't quite get is there a reason Pain has these abilities split across these bodies? Like, because he was talking about in the flashback how, like, oh, Pain mastered all 5, I think it said all 6 releases, and I don't, like, is there a 6th element? Like, what, or is he talking about something else? I wasn't quite sure. But it's like, Nagato can do a fucking lot.
Come to think of it, like, if Nagato has, like, he mastered all 6 natures, like, I don't even remember the chakra natures being a part of this fight at all. Like, there were different abilities spread across bodies.
My issue was, like, why... Is there a reason that each body can only do one type of technique? Like, it's all the same person. Like, it's not like they're different consciousnesses. He's the same character in 6 different bodies. Like, I don't see why. Like, it's not like summoning it or it's not what's it called? Kekai Genkai. So I don't see why the powers have to be split up across bodies. It just seems like he's nerfing himself. Like, why can't all the bodies just do all the things? Like, that's not necessarily interesting. I just don't get why they're separate. Because chakra is just, it's not, it doesn't make sense all the time.
Yeah, obviously it is a way to limit Pain so that he's less OP, but yeah, it
right,
is.
because that's the thing. If he just had 6 fully fledged bodies, like, these aren't clones. These are fully fledged bodies with their own chakra reserves. Like, yeah, it would be insane to have them actually have all their abilities. Like, if all of them could summon, if all of them could absorb techniques, like, that would be ridiculous. But it just seems like, see, this is where the differences between, like, chakra and Nen, the Nen system just reveal chakra's weaknesses, because Nen, the characters put their own weaknesses on themselves to make their abilities stronger. So there's more character to it. But this is like, it just works. He just is like, it's not like he's making these techniques. He's using like, or it's like chakra is like this established system and people are discovering the nuances of it. But like, I mean, they create new jutsu, but it's almost like, I don't know how much like freedom they have to create like, I don't know. It's weird because it's supposed to be, or like it's how they shape the chakra and stuff. So there's a creation aspect to it. So never mind. But it doesn't feel, it feels like, like the whole thing with chakra is that anyone, like in theory, if you can learn any technique, you know, like obviously if you spend a lot of time learning some techniques, you don't want to waste your time learning others, but like any character could in theory learn the Rasen Shuriken if they have enough time. It would just take a lot of time. So, I mean, not Kenkai Genkai, obviously. So I don't know. It just seems like weird. Like why? I don't know. I'm just not a fan of the chakra system. So yeah, Jiraiya dies. And then Sasuke, oh yeah, we get the little bit with Toby, and yeah, Toby's being, yeah, you're right, he's being Toby, and you know,
Toby being Toby.
But yeah, it just kind of ends, and well, we're cutting it off because we didn't read the Sasuke versus Itachi, but that'll be next
it really
time.
Does just blend right into the next one though, because like Jiraiya has his moment, and then there's like 3 chapters of, because they do cut away, like right before Jiraiya dies, they cut away to more Sasuke Itachi development. So like Sasuke shows up and Kisame stops the group and he's like, nope, Sasuke only.
Yes.
Per Itachi. And then, yeah.
That's kind of why I was saying earlier about how like it feels like this, from the Sasuke versus Orochimaru to the Sasuke versus Itachi, it just feels like the heavy arc, even though there is this kind of Jiraiya interlude. So yeah, it's fine. So I guess, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like how I felt about the arc overall, because it had some good moments, but then a lot of it is bogged down by like, you know, like the Sasuke's friends who I don't care about, and
yeah, and even like
the Jiraiya stuff
what
is
I would say
fine.
was the high point of this stretch of chapters, the Deidara Sasuke fight that's brought down by the end.
Yeah, so it's and it's weird because like I'm trying to compare, like, because one of my least, like looking at my arc listing of how much I like the arcs, the Wave Country is still one of my least favorite arcs. But now we're at the point where it's been so long since we've read it that I'm like, what did I like or dislike about that arc again? So it's getting weirder to rate the arcs. So I mean, not that I'm rating them now, but I mean, I thought it was fine, but it's weird because I guess like, because I don't want to rate the arc very poorly, but it, like, the high points, like the Sasuke versus Deidara fight, and that's about it. But then I didn't dislike the negative aspects a whole lot. Like even the end of the Sasuke versus Deidara fight, like I don't hate that. Like it doesn't fill me with disgust. It's just which is weird to say when I went on a fucking giant tirade about it anyway. Like it's disappointing, but it's not like, I could think of more moments I dislike more. So
I agree with you there, although for me it was a little more disappointing just because, I mean, I was so invested in Deidara's character, so to see him get this massive ability and have it amount to nothing,
for kind of bullshit reasons, yeah.
So it hurts me a little more, but even then, like, the fight before that is still really solid, so like...
Yes.
Yeah, but I can't also say that the fight is super great because the ending exists. A fight can't just stop.
Yes, that's fair. Like, the fight was great. Well, and even for me, the ending, like, the explanation part is where I start to lose interest because, again, I'm not a huge fan of characters talking at each other about their powers and what they were doing. And
see, like, for me, at least on
even though
Deidara's end,
the fight only worked.
Sort of...
Like, the fight only worked.
Well,
go on.
Yeah, at least on Deidara's end, because he is, I mean, he's an arrogant guy, so I could see him explaining his abilities, but it's more so Sasuke explaining how he...
And Sasuke basically had him beat, so, you know, you can kind of understand why they sort of stopped, but it's like I feel like the more natural progression might have been for, like, them to just sort of part ways, but then again, Deidara might as well get killed off, you know, so, again, it's just talking that corner that Kishimoto was still. But what I was going to say is that the talking, it's also, like, the fight is only good in retrospect because of the talking. like, I'm just not a fan of, like, characters, like, they both still had power, as clearly, you know, saw, and they could have killed each other at any time, but they just sort of decided to talk. Like, that's where, After this life and death struggle, like, it's just kind of, and then Toby was around, you know, Toby could have come out at any time and attacked Sasuke, and Sasuke wasn't, like, worried about that. Like, I didn't even realize that until just now, so... You know, that's why I'm not a fan of the talking, because the fight's only good in retrospect. I know you just said the thing about Toby, but
stuff, remember when Datara launched his power, he said, "Toby, get out of here," because, you know, his whole thing would disintegrate him. I mean, I guess he could have come back, so but... I mean, like, I guess from Sasuke's perspective, maybe I could see him explaining his abilities as a way to just say... because he doesn't want to kill Datara, so maybe that's his way of sort of saying, hey, I've got you outclassed, so you'd better... do as I say, give me the information about Itachi, maybe.
Yeah, I guess it's more of a conceptual thing, because, like, as we're talking about it now, I don't, like, it's hard to find a reason to specifically dislike it, especially when it, you know, it kind of makes sense on the character level. I guess I just wish I lived in a world where it wasn't necessary, or we were reading a series where it wasn't necessary. So.
Well, because, like, I don't know, with me... I could potentially see an issue with it, but there are also fights that I think, like, for example, spoilers for the Hunter x Hunter manga Beyond the Anime. So if you haven't read it, mute your ears.
Yeah, I know the fight.
But yes, mute your ears. But yeah, when Hisoka fights Crollo, like, you need the exposition in that fight, and, like, there's no easy, because, like, at the very beginning of the fight, it opens with them just, like, Crollo flat out explaining his powers to Hisoka, and, like, there's no real other way that you can handle that. Like, how else? Because, like, I think part of...
Well, you could use a narrator, wink, wink, but
that doesn't particularly work in this instance, because with Hisoka, like, part of his reaction is based on the knowledge of Crollo's powers.
No, yeah, so he would have to... And he only really has a fighting chance because he does know the powers from the get-go. So,
and that just sort of
it is a more formal environment. Like, that's the thing. They're fight. I mean, it's a fight to the death, but they're in an arena setting. So that's maybe that justifies it.
It also kind of shows that, like, with Crollo's powers, like, because he can, like, he explains all of his powers to Hisoka, and Hisoka has to fight through it. But, like, even then, he still can't beat Crollo, so it really just kind of shows his overwhelming strength. And granted, that doesn't quite work the same in the Sasuke-Datara fight, because it happens after the fact. So it's not like Sasuke showing...
Yeah, the fight doesn't end with the power explaining, and it doesn't happen in the middle either. It's really just at the beginning, now I think about it. I think. I might be misremembering. I think it's been slightly longer since I read it than you, so...
But, I mean... I guess anyway. That's just my way of explaining that I'm not super bent out of shape about this particular moment between Sasuke and Datara. Maybe there was another way it could have been handled, like, throughout the fight. Well, that is tough then, because, like...
Yeah, I'm not even sure about that.
Because, like, if you had Sasuke notice things throughout the fight, then that, I guess, would sort of...
I don't know, maybe I need to check some of my expectations, so... And, opinions. Check myself before I wreck myself, I guess. Anyway, yeah, any other closing thoughts on the arc? Or, because again, it feels like a bit weird to cut it the way it is, but we didn't really have a choice because, I mean, I guess, no, we're already, 2.5 hours in, so maybe we could have talked about Sasuke versus Itachi, but I don't know how much long that's going to be because it is 20 chapters, give or take.
It's a massive fight, but then again, it is just a fight. So,
Right, so I don't know. Maybe we could have done it, but too late now. We're not going to pause the podcast and go read it and then talk about it. So.
Stuff we have to read, where the arcs are less defined.
Right. So, though I do think, like, the Wikia needs to get shit together, because I do feel like this is all one arc. You know, they have it separated into 3 arcs: Itachi Pursuit, Tale of Jiraiya, and Sasuke vs. Itachi, but I feel like it's just the heavy arc. Like, just throwing that out there, Wikia guys. Like Pain Assault, maybe. I don't know how that's...
because that's tough then, because like the Jiraiya story builds into the Pain Assault, so it really is 2 arcs happening simultaneously.
Yeah, so that's fair, but and I don't know, because I don't remember them cutting back to Sasuke during the Pain Assault, so I don't know, I'm wondering how, like, because Mystere Fusion kind of does his Like he has explained why he separates the arcs he does. So I'm curious as to like what kind of what would you say about the Naruto arcs? Sort of like maybe we'll have a better idea of it looking back once we go forward a bit. So yeah, catch you next time. I think we're done.
Later.